Bob Walker, everybody. We're going straight into it.
We would not be where we are today without Phil, first of all. We're evolving as a sport, but it's the best kept secret in sports marketing, trust me. Yeah. It really is. If you want the male 18 to 34 demographic, this is where you need to be. And then you're sitting here looking at Yamaha factory. They couldn't win a championship for 20 years. They put their faith in Star Yamaha, and it's just been a championship machine. I've always looked at it as Travis Pastrana was Luke Skywalker, and Brian Deegan was Darth Vader in the Metal Mulisha. Brian's got an incredible eye and a good feel for what's next. You know, most racers don't have the marketing side. It's like, God dang, like how hard is it to be a great racer and be marketable? Obviously it's difficult because we don't have many. Then the ultimate, what's the purse money? And you're like, well, it's this. You got these invitational races at the end of the year that pay $1 million, and it's a smaller crowd than here. I love controlling my own destiny. Yeah. It's like I live or die with the decisions I make. If I F up, it's on me.
This episode is brought to you by Yamaha and the all-new 2024 YZ250F. It's no secret that I've been a big fan of this 250F.
Where would you go right now if you want to win a lights championship?
Star Yamaha.
And in 2024, Yamaha has migrated their latest chassis platform to the quarter-litre King. With the new chassis designed to give you flex in the right areas that allow for maximum feel through the turns without sacrificing stability. There's also an all-new Ergos package designed at slimming down the bike and updates to the rider triangle to improve rider comfort. The Yamaha still has that same exciting engine package that has become a modern icon in the 250 class, rocketing Star Racing to the lion's share of the last decade's titles. Combine this with Yamaha's Bluetooth connectivity for easy mapping and engine monitoring, and you have one of the best production 250s on the market today. To learn more, head to YamahaMotorsports.com or click the link in the description below.
I'm at a gypsy.
Bob Walker, everybody. We're going straight into it.
Let's go.
Jacko, we're talking about Jacko. You're saying off the motorcycle.
Jackson Strong off the motorcycle. We were at X Games. I forget what year it was, but he was doing the front flip. No, it was the snowmobile. He was doing that snowmobile trick when it went into the crowd.
Yeah.
Remember? And just shot into the crowd, went through the
that up for us, right?
K-rail fence. And the next day I take him, I'm like, Jacko, you got to go snowboarding.
Winter X snowmobile.
I'm like, Jacko, you got to go snowboarding. He's never been snowboarding. And I'm like, and I love snowboarding. I'm backcountry, the whole 9 yards. So I get him aboard and we go over to Highlands, Aspen Highlands. I take him straight to Highlands, straight to the top. He's got no gloves. And he gets on the snowboard and I take him to a double black diamond and he just drops in. And he's never been on a snowboard. And the guy nails the run. And I'm just like, freak of nature athlete. Like I'm telling family back home, like, you're not going to believe Jacko. I'm like, I put him on the snowboard. I take him to the top of Highlands thinking I'm messing with him. I get up there, he's got no gloves. And he's going to snowboard down a double black diamond chute with no gloves. So you can't drag your hands.
Yeah. Just an animal.
And no big deal to him. I'm good, Bob. It's okay. It's good. No worries. And I was like, kid's special.
So he is.
Like, not just on a bike.
And he's just super smart. He's one of the most like redneck smart dudes of all time too. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah. Is this the one where yeah, this is the one.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, snowmobiling in X Games. Oh my God, dude.
Now it takes off.
I do remember. No fucking way.
So that Ford right there, with the doors open,
yeah,
that's Mulisha Deegan.
No,
the sled was beelining straight at her, I guess.
Wow.
it caught the snow fencing, and
look how young he is there too.
Oh,
that's insane.
I call him Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
And
he's a savage.
The next day, Steve Pock calls me, and we got railed. He's like, "You said he's been practicing," and I said, "Yeah, he has been. He says he's only got a total of 10 minutes on a sled," and I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, think about how many runs you can make in 10 minutes, like combined together." And he's like, "That's not how it came across on TV." What are you doing putting a guy in X Games with only 10 minutes on a sled?
That is unreal, dude.
So
He's an animal, eh?
but yeah, there's a lot of those Jackson stories, but we love the kid. He's like family to us.
He's inspired me to get my pilot's license.
Are you gonna fly with him?
Probably
Would you
not
let
with-
him be your instructor?
Honestly, probably. But I don't know that I would want him to like do the shit that he does, you know?
Yeah, he's begging me to go up with him, and I'm like, dude.
Well, apparently he's an amazing pilot.
Well, on video it looks like it, but I'm afraid when he puts me in the plane, he's gonna do even more
Yeah.
Jacko stuff,
Yeah.
and
Which he probably would.
and I'll be puking all over the place. So
Well,
I'm like,
how's I rode on the back of a wasn't a MotoGP bike, but it was a big bike with Jack Miller. And I get on the bike and he's like, I'm fully prepared to crash, bro. I was like, fuck. It was the most scared I've ever been in my entire life.
is that so I've seen that at MotoGP where they have the two rider bike and Randy Mamola.
Yep, he's the one that normally does it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like holding on to this like tiny little like kiddie handlebar, and then on the back, dude, my legs were coming off. Like it was fucking psycho.
Were you? Did he tell you like you got to lean in with him, or do you lean again?
No, we'll lean. Yeah, leaning in with him. Okay. Yeah. It was like mind blowing, dude. Like a religious experience. I was that scared. And then after like a lap, because we did two, I guess we did like. Normally they don't let you go down the main straight. So, but I was doing some stuff with Ducati at the time. He was on Ducati, and the other ride. So you go out of pit lane, you do the lap, and then you come into pit lane. So you don't go down the straight. So we did 3 laps because I went down the straight twice. And bro, like first lap, I was so scared, and then after that, I just was like, all right. We're gonna crash. Like just let go, you know. But yeah, most scared I've ever been.
What kind of speeds did you guys hit?
We were doing just under 300 kilometers an hour.
So,
but the bike couldn't go any faster because of the wind. Like we couldn't tuck in. So because we had to be like up on the motorcycle, we couldn't get the full like aero effect. So you can hear the bike on video. It's just wedged. Couldn't go any faster.
Just floating the valves.
Yeah, it was insane, dude. So that's what flying with Jacko would feel like.
Yeah, I would love to do that on one of those MotoGP bikes and have that experience.
Dude, yeah, you can't comprehend what they're doing until you do that. Like no matter, I've done track days. Like I've ridden those bikes. I've ridden Phillip Island. Like until you actually feel what they do, that all of it doesn't make sense. But you do that with them, and then you're like, oh my god, that's what's happening every fucking turn.
Are you one of the guys? Like it seems like moto or racers, especially, we have a hard time riding shotgun if we're not the driver
in control,
right? If we're not in control, so many of us seem to be sketched out, don't have a lot of confidence together because we're just not in control. Like for me, if I have to ride shotgun in a vehicle, I get sick.
Yeah,
I get car sick like that.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if are you similar? You like that as well, or
no? I guess I just had to do it. Like there was cameras and it was like a thing. Like I just had to. But I mean, I've been in like V8 supercars and stuff like that. Like the cars doesn't seem to worry me. But yeah, I don't know. I probably if there wasn't cameras and all that shit, I don't know that I would have done it.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking scary. I had an opportunity once, and I was with an ex-girlfriend, and she actually rode on the back of the bike. Because I was like, nah, I don't want to do it. She was fucking keen, but it's like that ignorance is bliss. Like they'd never crashed a bike, never been to hospital, never like felt what could go wrong. So they're like, oh, this is good. I'll do it. But yeah, I was like, I'm fucking way too educated.
Now, imagine if we could find a way in Supercross and motocross to do a VIP media ride where you could take the reporter from USA Today, Sports Illustrated, who's like, damn, that's a really cool sport, but you don't understand how cool this sport. You don't understand how cool this sport is.
Yeah.
Until you can get out there
and really feel it.
Yeah, and they're like, because I've been selling this sport and involved for so long, and when I go to a Madison Avenue or I'm talking to the media, they can't
comprehend it.
They can't comprehend. They don't understand the feel, and they see it and they're like, oh, it's easy. It's not. It's a motorsport. It's not a sport.
Yeah.
Because you go into how hard these guys train, and how lean they are, and the cardiovascular, and the amount of work they put on the road bikes, and you try to tell the media and people
just like the risk they're exposed to every single day. Like there's just no. that's the other thing that I don't think mainstream reporters, like even people that cover other sports, like an F1 reporter or a MotoGP reporter, it's like, oh yeah, the MotoGP guys are gnarly, but they aren't exposed to the risk every single day. These guys do 4 days of riding a week, race on the weekend, and at every single step of the way, a chain could break, a bike could fail. Like what they're going, they're racing every single day, 5 days a week, 31 weeks a year, 40 plus weeks a year.
So
you know?
think about the total laps they put in.
Yeah.
My saying is you're one pebble away from your career being over.
For sure.
And not just your career being over, like
being maimed in the process.
Yeah, I mean, we have I think the most dangerous sport out there, and it's the coolest sport at the same time. And when you're out there, I mean, look at the great riders we've lost practicing over the decades. You know, from David Bailey to Ernesto and on and on and on. It goes, and you know, Button's injury at practice on a track. I mean, it can happen at any second, and not just your career's over. It can change your life forever.
Yeah.
And you try to tell these stories to the mainstream media or people that don't know our sport, and then they're like, "Oh, it's not that hard. They make it look so easy. It's a motor sport. How much energy are they really exerting? How difficult is this?" So then, if we could find a way to get a guy on a bike, it'd be great. You know, you can't tandem jump a triple. You can't tandem the whoops.
Yeah.
But if there was a way, even if there was a simulator to get them in,
you know
get
what
the
I reckon?
Experience.
Put them on like a TTR 110. Like, you know how they were doing that at, they did that at SMX last year at the Coliseum. They did like the celebrity race or whatever. But imagine if you like get the media, because one of the things, like if you were on a track and you're on like a 110 and you were like riding through the whoops, and then you get like Roxon just and the roost or coming down the start, just having
that
people
feel going by you.
Yeah, like this is how fast I can go, and this is what it feels like, and this is what it's like for someone to come past you. Maybe that's like the only way you could translate it, is like someone on the same track at the same time, and you're on a little 110 and you're just like kind of cruising around.
You're like, holy
Or
smoke.
just the start straight with the roost coming at you, and a fucking USA Today reporter.
20 media guys lined up, elbow to elbow, going into the first turn. That adrenaline rush alone that they would have.
Yeah.
But if we could find a way with our sport to convey this to the media, then the media would talk more about it. It would get us more eyeballs, get us new followers, new fans of the sport. Oh, and by the way, it'd probably sell more motorcycles too.
Yeah.
In our industry, it would raise all tides for us. And with all the technology coming in, you know, into our world and sport, and with the e-bikes coming and everything else, you'd like to think there's some form of a simulator that you could put a media guy on and replicate what it's like going through the whoops, because then they can't get hurt. Like almost like the electronic bowls. You land on the inflatable mat. So imagine you're on this replica dirt bike and you can go through the whoops and get bucked off, but you're gonna land on.
Dude, imagine like a full-sized bike. You know how they have those swing robots, and you can do like Rory McIlroy's swing.
Oh,
you've seen those?
Yeah.
So imagine you've got a whoop section, right? And the bike is on. It's got like 2 bars that are in it, right? And it can hit a whoop section, and the bike, the throttle, like it's just a full. This is what it's like. No, you don't do anything. The throttle does it all.
Okay.
And the bike hits the whoops, and it can go a little bit side.
Oh, and you're just holding on, but you get the feel.
You just gotta hold on, and it's like imagine that would scare the fuck out of people.
Oh man,
Like
imagine a reporter for USA Today having that experience and trying to convey that in a story.
Yeah.
Like that would be. Let's do that to launch A1 this year.
I wonder, like, you could build it. You'd just have to have like a whoop section with a tray, like some tracks alongside it, and you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, because you think about how they've enhanced our broadcast, where they have like the quad with the camera on it, and now we got the drones.
Yeah.
But remember, like at Daytona, they started it, and
with
it
the
followed the whoops,
side-by-side.
and followed them. You could get that, but with all the technology and the data, you think you could just build a computerized program where the bike would respond to that, and it's like, hey, Mr. Media guy, you just hang and hold on. It's going to take you through what it feels like. And then you have the bike going by or something at the real speed, what that feels like. But if we could figure these things out to continually enhance and grow our sport, you know, this edition of SMX has been great. I think we were all really concerned in year one, but once we got proof of concept last year, it's really worked. We're all buying in. I think it's opened our eyes to more potential out there.
Well, the ratings are crazy good too. Did you get the email from Brennan and the team about like the ratings and stuff?
I did not get that. I got a note last week, so I'm waiting on the new updated recap deck for the year.
I actually got an email from Sean yesterday about the ratings. Let me just have like a little dig through it. Here it is. What's that?
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. All right. They just posted 2 hours ago. They just posted it.
Speaking of technology.
Yeah. So 1.9 billion plus total minutes streamed for Peacock exclusive races. That's up 24% over last season. 502,000 viewers averaged across NBC, USA Network, and streaming simulcast across Peacock and NBC Sports. Again, up another 25%. Washougal Pro Motocross race on July 20 eclipsed 1 million viewers, most watched race since 2021.
That's That's a really impressive number there, because, as you know, media numbers and viewership has gone down across every sport in the world. That's how it is. But to see that in Washougal, like, because that's usually not a big watched race, right?
Yeah. I wonder why. I just wonder what
was it a featured race for some reason? I mean, everything's live. I mean, what made?
I wonder.
Oh, the airplane. They got stranded. Remember when? We had Triumph and Star. We had Haiden and Jordan Smith and Jalik.
Had to take the private plane
because that's when Microsoft had the meltdown.
Was it that weekend?
It was that weekend.
Huh.
I remember because I'd gone out early. We went out a day before and we camped, and I didn't have any cell service. And I happened to come out of the hills to drive over to Washougal. My phone rings and it was Jalik, and he's like, "Hey, I'm in Atlanta," and I'm like,
"You should be at practice, homie."
I'm like, "Dude,
yeah.
I'm at Washougal." I go, what's going on? He goes, "Oh, this computer shut down." I'm like, "What computer?" And I'm like, I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, start to see what's going on in the world. What did we just miss? And you heard about the whole Microsoft shutdown. And Jalik tipped my hands, and he's like, "I think Brian and Haiden are here." So I called Brian. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Let me call the track." And it was like all hands on board. And next thing you know, we're like, "Hey, Brian, they're racing whether you guys get here or not. Like, it's all hands on deck, bro. We gotta get a jet." Like I'm like, get the jet and we'll figure the money out later. Yeah. Like let's just make sure we're going to get you guys here first of all. But so you think about all the social that day, everyone posting.
Yeah.
Championship on the line. Are they going to make it? Maybe that's what fed into the storyline for that. Who knows? But like when you and I sitting here talking, like, why? What was Washougal so unique or different? It was like, we had like 5 guys we didn't know if we're going to make it.
Yeah.
To that race.
That is crazy, eh? But yeah, I mean, dude, that's like, they're insane numbers. So yeah, Glendale was the top 5. So this is the top 5 most streamed races ever. Glendale, Daytona, 3 is A2 and A1, and then San Diego. Yeah, honestly, dude, like the sport is fully on the up. Like, I mean, I don't know if have you seen any of the decks that we've done? Like
on your side?
Yeah,
no.
Bro, the numbers are fully ridiculous. Like every month we're getting nearly 1 million hours watched. 1 million hours watched. That's just YouTube.
What percent's international versus domestic?
The US is like 80%, bro.
Okay.
Like
I thought it might be lower because we are such a global
the US
sport, right?
Yeah. But I think like even if you add up all the views that we're getting on like all our platforms a month, it's like 30 mil. Every month.
No, as I said earlier,
crazy.
You have the best podcast out there, and the way you're your interviews, the way you structure these are so good. You're getting good information that the fans are clamoring for. Like, it's just not the same old regurgitated racing stuff.
Well, we need. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate it. But I think my biggest philosophy in all this, and like the reason why the show is the way it is like, I'm a fan, and I want to be the kind of fan that can watch something dirt bike related every day. Like, this is my NFL. If you watch the NFL, you got receivers, you got the quarterbacks, you've got all of the podcasts, you've got all of the mic'd up from the NFL, you've got the vlogs, there's so much shoulder content that you never have to leave the NFL. When the season's on, bro, fucking let's go. Like, watch it 24 hours a day if you want to. And that's the kind of dirt bike guy I am. Like, I was the kid that grew up going on to Trans World Motocross every day. I'd literally get up first thing in the morning, my whole life as a kid. Transworld, Racer X, Verb Moto, every day. Just see what new videos was out. If there wasn't a new video, I'd watch an old video. And,
you're so lucky.
You know,
I grew up waiting every week for Cycle News to show up in my mailbox. Then I'd read through Cycle News and I'd look at the race reports for all races all over the country and see the guys that I was racing against, how they were doing in their region. We didn't have cell phones then. And it was like, you
just
would wait
for information
forever for ESPN2 to air a race from a month ago. Or I'll even date myself even more. I'd wait all year for the Carlsbad GP to be on ABC Wide World of Sports. That was my one chance a year to watch a motorcycle race on TV, and it was the Carlsbad GP.
So where was the disconnect then? Like, where did that stop? Why is the super, like, this is obviously awesome. Like, so this isn't a like a dig on where we're at now. But I remember the same thing. Like, we would go to a friend's house on Sundays to watch a replay on ESPN. And that was it. That's all we got.
And that's all we look at. We just looked so forward to that. And that's the only chance we got to see these guys, how they rode.
Yeah.
Like, we're visual learners, right? It's like, for us to develop our skill set back then, it was just natural and just going for it.
But so when did the ESPNs leave? Why did they leave? Like, why no ABC? What, you know what I mean? Like, when did that split?
In my opinion, just kind of going back in my head, you think about the 80s, that was the mid 80s, the Bailey days,
RJ's,
Mark Barnett,
Stantons,
Mike Bell, Stanton, all those guys. That was my generation that I got to grow up with and idolize. And so you had it on ESPN, and then it seems like it went off air for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? We lost it there. Why? Who knows the why? And then it had to be a time buy, so Pace or whoever it was, Pace, SFX, Clear Channel, at the time would have to do a time buy, which was very expensive. They'd have to produce their own show. Then they'd have to sell their own show because the networks weren't buying motocross then. Like, they would spend all this money on golf. They'd spend all this money on the NFL, college football, NBA. And those are big rights fee deals, but we've never had that. And we still don't have that in the sport.
Yeah. And I suppose too, like, you look at the NFL as an organization, like, Jesus, what a fucking machine, dude. Like, the way that is some incredibly smart people that are, like, aggressive. And I always talk about the UFC. That's probably the second, the UFC and golf are, like, my other two things that I'm, like, really into outside of motorsports. And I mean, I remember being a kid watching the first UFCs and, like, to see the progression between, I want to say, like, 2010, like, if you go back that far to now, so not even 15 years, dude, one of the biggest sports in the world, just aggressively going after progression year on year on year. And maybe Supercross didn't have that. It just didn't. It was more of a stadium filler. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily because the UFC, they're not going to huge stadiums, so the gates are, I guess nowadays they're doing like $20 million gates, but it wasn't just about the gate. It was so about pay-per-view and TV and global TV
And I
audience.
think that's where our promoters missed it.
That's what it's
where
not
I
as
think
aggressive.
Our promoters missed it because they were passionate about our sport and they were producing racing, missing the marketing side of our sport. How aggro, how aggressive, how manly, how gnarly this sport, and that's what UFC is, right?
Yeah,
Gnarly,
it taps into
aggro,
that like primal kind of
primal.
Yeah.
There it is, and this is a primal sport. But I think we lost that, and Feld has done an amazing job. So I don't want to sound like
for sure.
We would not be where we are today without Feld, first of all. And Kenneth has done an amazing job.
And working with those guys over the last couple of years this year here, they all really care. And they're all really trying, for sure.
And I know they're pushing the envelope. They really are with this SMX stuff and how everybody's come together. We've had a fragmented sport for 30 years.
That's also very true, yeah.
I look at it like, remember when kart and IRL, when it was kart, which is now IndyCar racing, that was the be-all, end-all of racing here in the United States. NASCAR was a pimple on an elephant's rear end.
Really?
And when kart, and I may screw up some of the history on this, but it was kart IndyCar racing, and there was that separation with Indy Speedway, which I think the George family owned, and they had that separation because Indy was the crown jewel of the series, and then they wanted to break that out and start a separate series. So you had a sport that became two series.
Yeah,
it was kart and then IndyCar. Now it's finally become IndyCar, but because of all that, it became fragmented.
And you just lose
NASCAR
the momentum.
capitalized on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And forever, it's been the dominant motorsport here in the United States for the last 30 years, in my opinion, because of that split that they had in it. And so we've had our own split because you got Supercross.
Yep.
Your promoter's Feld.
Yep.
You have the Outdoor Nationals with AMA Pro Racing.
Yep.
And you have 12, 11 track owners with 11 different opinions. So it was cool when MX Sports was able to bring the tracks together at the outdoor side to be, one conglomerate, so to speak, with one voice. But then you still had Feld doing their thing, Motocross doing their thing, Motocross with their sponsors, Supercross with their sponsors, 2-race format, 1-race format, qualifiers. Explain to me, if you're not a fan, how a guy like you and I can educate someone in 15 minutes without confusing the hell out of them.
Oh, mate, my wife had to go to all fucking first half of the season to get on the program to know what was going on.
Dude, I've been preaching this for years. I was like, I'm the guy bringing the corporate sponsors out to the suites and introducing them to this sport and telling them why their brand should be here. And you get them there, and they're like, okay, and you're trying to explain the racing to them, and you're like, you got a CMO going, bro, man, if I can't understand this, how am I going to get our clients to understand this?
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
As a CMO, SVP of marketing, no one's going to walk the plank and take that risk for the CEO to say, whose idea was this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're just not going to do it.
That's such a clean explanation.
I'm like, I've lived it all the time, and I keep trying to figure out, how do I simplify this? How do I make this easier for them to understand? Because the hospitality in the stadiums is great. Like, you get this corporate experience. When we're chasing the brands that we're chasing to bring into our sport, everybody's talking about the outside money, right? So how are you going to say, hey, Mr. XYZ brand, I think you should be over here at Supercross Motocross instead of NFL or NBA? And they're like, well, we get this experience. The team's going to activate us. We're going to be integrated into their marketing. There's going to be ticket sales promotions. We're going to get hospitality. They're going to include us at retail. We're not doing any of that over here.
Mm-hmm.
Our promoters just want a logo on a banner or on the backdrop and call it a day. And it's like, guys, that's not working in 2024 anymore.
Dude, man, we have fucking good sponsors. Like, we're very we're lucky, but we grind for our sponsors. And the amount of shit we give our sponsors, the amount of work we have to do. Like, the equivalent for us is, it's not a sticker on the bike. It would be just like a mention on the show. It's like, nah, that ain't doing it. Like, you have to go so hard and you have to really work because, man, we're also competing with Facebook, Instagram, Like I know companies, I have friends that own companies, right? They'll spend $1 million a month on Facebook ads. $1 million a month. Why?
What's the return? That's a trackable return on investment,
$4 million
right?
return.
It's
And
like,
then,
hey, if I can spend $1 million and get $2 million back,
yeah,
I'll take loans to do that, right?
they do until they don't need to, and then they just keep feeding the machine. So like we're in competition. The competition for these ad dollars and these sponsorship dollars is just so heavy that you really need to provide people with an experience. And like you walk through an F1 pit and you see like the Don Julio or the Mercedes corporate experience, and it's just like fucking mind blowing. It's like you really do need to fight and create.
And you're fighting with the athletes now because the athletes have become their own brands. They've become their own media platforms now.
Yeah.
We're doing as much business as an agency on daily one-off social posts.
Huh.
Like our athletes are influencers.
Yeah.
And brands come to us not to sponsor them, but hey, we want 2 or 3 posts as proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then it turns into a bigger package. But now the athletes really, truly have their own voice. And if you're a young athlete coming up, it's not just about the racing. Like every single deck, every single outside sponsor we talk to wants to know more about every athlete. What's their social platform, what their engagement percentage is, the followers, the impressions, and then they do deep dives. Then they go down the rabbit holes and start seeing what you're posting.
Yeah.
And what you're saying. Are you saying the right things? Where are your alignments at? And so you as a podcast, you're competing against every single athlete in this sport for ad dollars, as well as the teams, as well as the promoters. We're all competing against each other. Yeah. And it's like, what separates you from the rest?
Yeah.
And every brand's marketing goal and objectives is different. And I'm sitting down talking to them like, guys, I can give you an incredible proposal. Like I can nail all these things. I said, but I need to know your marketing goals and objectives. What are your 3 most important things that you're trying to reach as a brand, and let me come back to you with solutions to your goals with this sport and why I think it would work and why I think it will move the needle. And by the way, look at these social numbers that will help back it up in that process.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening is now the athletes are their own media channels.
Yeah.
You look at like Buttery, for example,
For
Axel.
real. Yeah.
For example, like they're crushing it with their social. They've become household brands with their names because of social. And you're competing for those ad dollars. Yeah. Just like Feld is or the Outdoor Nationals are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And you have to offer something very real and very, very tangible, you know what I mean? Because it's just, the competition. And again, there's not just in our industry, but it's like when you've got these companies, like we have AG1. They've been a sponsor of us for the last couple of years, right? Right. They spend fucking millions and millions of dollars on Facebook and Instagram ads as well. So it's like it is a crazy hard landscape. But I think there obviously is so much value in like partnering with a sport, having those real world experiences, and also like even just providing like a Toyota, right? They come into the sport, like bringing dealers in and having it as like actual corporate experiences for like the high level people at Toyota, or dealerships that have like top sales agents in the country and top service agents. Like there's so many layers at which you can like make deals work these days. Yep.
It's just a matter of getting that intel in front of the right people, and then you get them excited, and then you bring them out to a race.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to explain their sport to them, and they're like, you can see how you're losing them. You can just see their processing. You're like, okay, so we're gonna have practice in the morning, and it's time trials, but the first one's free. Well, what does free mean? Well, free means you just get to go out and ride, but then you're going to come out an hour later and you're going to have a time session, and you're going to another one after that, and it's your best time between the two, and that's going to determine where you start on the gate, and then you're going to run this race, and they're going to take the top 9, and if you're part of the top 9, you go to this final race, But if you're not part of the top 9, you get this last chance to try to qualify, and they take the top 4 of that, but it's a quick sprint race. And then that guy's going to go right to the final, and you got 22 guys in this final, and they're going to race for 15 minutes plus 2 laps. Try to tell someone that's never been to a race.
Oh, this guy, he's a plumber, he's an electrician. They're not. Oh, so they're not real racers? No. Like they're real racers, but they don't really get paid to race. Like,
but these 5 guys do.
These guys are good.
And these
guys.
are getting what kind of money? Well, they're getting this.
Yeah.
Well, how come the other guys only get this and they're not getting it? Then the ultimate, what's the purse money?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's this. And they're like, really? There's 60,000 people in this stadium. I'm looking at all these sponsor banners. I'm looking at all this merch being sold. And I'm like, well, it's expensive. You got the venue, you got rights fees, you got TV broadcast. It all adds up. And then they're like, yeah, but you got these invitational races at the end of the year that pay $1 million, and it's a smaller crowd than here. And they're asking me this. And I'm like, this is John Q, CMO.
Yeah.
Drilling down on these questions. And they're like, you've been in sport for 30 years, but you don't know the answers to all this? And I'm like, well, we're evolving. We're evolving as a sport. But it's the best kept secret in sports marketing. Trust me. Yeah. It really is. If you want the male 18 to 34 demographic, this is where you need to be. And I truly, wholeheartedly believe that is where the cutting edge 18 to 34-year-old males reside and are watching and consuming content. It's here. Yeah. They're consuming as much, if not more, than the NFL.
Yeah. And it's quite a high earning demographic.
Yes.
Which
it's
is
a very affluent.
Yeah.
It's a very affluent demographic, and they're like,
well, and it's a lot of guys. Like, I can definitely speak on this in terms of like I'm very active in like talking to our community. It's like a lot of dudes that own their own businesses, a lot of guys that they work in construction, they're carpenters, they're electricians, they got their own businesses, they're concreters, they're fucking asphalt
just
guys.
Look in the pit, not the pits, but look in that
that
parking lot.
Yeah,
is what we tell people. It's like, guys, go to a Supercross as a brand and walk the parking lot.
Yeah,
it is
our
version of NFL or college tailgate football party. That's our version of it that takes place 31 times a year. And guys, look at the vehicles these people are driving. Like these are $70,000 to $100,000 pickup trucks, right? Everyone's got a camper tied to the back. They typically own 3 to 4 dirt bikes. At an average price of $10,000. So let's just do some simple math. You got to own a $100,000 truck, $30,000, $40,000 trailer. You got a couple toys, $10,000 to $15,000 a piece. You got your gear. You're paying for race gas. Your track fee's $25. You got to drive an hour to get to the track. That's another $100 of driving.
Yeah.
And so those are people with money and with disposable income.
There's some hard-working Americans that work hard and play hard.
Yes, and they love their toys.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell people like, hey, you got this affluency. And they're like, yeah, but what about skateboard? And I'm like,
skateboard costs $80.
Exactly.
The barrier of entry is $0.
But these brand people in corporate America, they don't understand this. They don't know this. That's why people like you and I are coming along and trying to educate them. But then we're faced with these other hurdles and explaining our sport to them.
Yeah.
Because we all want to bring the sponsors in.
And it's the thing that like frustrates me. I don't know if you followed my vendetta I had against privateers at the start of this year when I lost my cool.
I didn't, so pull me up to speed.
Oh, I just had a bit of a let go about privateers. Just literally yelled, "Fuck the privateers!"
We have no sport without the privateers.
But you don't think so?
I don't think so, because unless the OEMs or the sponsors, and that's together, because the OEMs need the sponsors. We need the money to fill the paddock.
Well, I just think that what you said, right? That whole like B practice A, free practice, that fuck it all off. 20 dudes that we got with 20 best guys.
But we can do that still
in Supercross. No, but like it's more the process of getting to it. You know what I mean? Like the fact, to me anyway, this is like, I'm not going to bore the audience with my take again. I've been bashed with it. It's just been like rammed.
Come on, I'm getting you run over again.
But it's like we go through the same drawn out process to get the same 20 guys every single weekend. And it's like, if you think about one of my again, this is like the marketing brain. This is like how do you grow the sport and make it better for the people that are involved and more enticing for the new people, is the rider gets there, Chase Sexton gets there at 8 a.m. in the morning and he leaves at 1 a.m. at night, 31 times a year. He's fucking, or 7 to 18 times. So he's doing no media. He's doing no TV. There's none of the extra stuff that you would like require of a professional athlete. There's no pre-show that the guys are sitting down. They don't want to be in the press conferences. They don't want to give it. Like, so we've got these top tier dudes in the sport and they spend all fucking day in a motorhome because they're just like kind of in and out of these practices and it's 10 laps and then you come back in and another 10 laps and you come back in. So to me, I'm just like, I don't need to see a guy that is, some guys, dude, in C practice, 14 seconds a lap off like Haiden and RJ.
Right.
That's not, you're not a pro.
Not safe.
You're not a pro.
No, and it's not safe.
Yeah, and you're just not on the level. There's no other sport, professional motorsport in the world where you can be that percentage of the lap time off the pace and actually be allowed to play. That's why you don't see golfers on the PGA Tour shooting 100. That's the equivalent.
Right.
That's why in the World Surfing Tour, you don't see guys paddle and miss waves, right? So there's a level that we need to maintain. And I think that if you took those, if you streamlined the process and you could send Chase Sexton out for a 20-minute practice, then the lights go out 20-minute practice, another 20-minute practice for the big boys, another 20 minutes practice for light, and then you go in, there's no LCQs, there's none of that shit. Bang. Let's just see the best guys the whole time, all day, every day. Does there need to be another series for those guys? Does there need to be motocross? Don't change it. Completely fine. Need privateers, don't change this at all.
Because the tracks are so big, you got to film.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So let me ask you this. When you think of privateers, because we got former factory riders that are privateers now, right?
But are they privateers?
Well, that's where I'm going to. It's a loaded question. How do you define a privateer?
So the privateers, it's not the right way to describe it. It's basically how good are you?
There we go.
That's
yeah, because when I think privateer,
yeah.
I'm thinking of a
Colt Nichols.
Exactly.
Technically, private. That's the thing where I think people really got pissed off.
Dean Wilson, for example.
But he's fucking great. He makes every single night show.
Right.
There should be a way to know who the best 20 guys are without having 80 dudes sign up for each class.
I mean, look what they did with SMX the last 2 years.
It's the same shit.
Yeah, you got 22 guys.
Yeah.
So maybe it's 22 guys and only 20 race. So you got 2 because we know how gnarly and dangerous our sport is.
Yeah.
Something happens in practice.
Yeah. So
we want to have a full gate.
Yeah, but you think about how much time gets wasted. And then what's another thing that we're going through? The track prep. The tracks are dangerous. Okay, we don't have time to fix the tracks in between the practices and that. So there's just all these problems, let's have radio communications. Let's step
don't even
into
be going on that
let's step in. Oh, but what are the privateers going to do? They can barely afford to. Don't fucking race.
Everybody gets the same damn radio. I am like, I do not understand why this sport cannot have radios. I've been chirping on this for 20 years.
Really? Oh, welcome to another one of my hobby horses that I
Dude,
ride.
I've had this with multiple of my riders. I'm like, guys, I've raced multiple Bajas on a dirt bike.
Yeah.
And if I can, race at a dirt bike across the dry lake bed at 105 miles an hour with someone in my ear talking to me, I think Ken Roxon can jump a triple jump completely fine. I think Chase Sexton can rail the whoops with someone talking in his ear.
Also, your mechanic or your whoever is not going to talk to you as like boom as you're about to hit the whoops. Like, let's have some fucking common sense here.
It's like, and guys, this is going to open up a sponsorship category or two. What a great way to get a wireless sponsor in. It's broadcast to you this way, and now the fans can get scanners like they do at NASCAR. Like, I listen to Haley's race when I'm not there on my phone with the NASCAR scanner. I can pick any driver I want to. It's another revenue stream for the sport.
Yeah.
I can hear everything going on. I now understand race strategy. And the second part of this that I've been a proponent of, but I don't get many listeners, is I think we should have pit stops.
Pit stops?
I think we should have one mandatory pit stop.
What would you do in the pit stop?
you have to put gas in and you got to change both wheels. Something to bring them together. It's another strategy.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to change a racing format, let's think about this. You and I are like, we're
bullshitting.
We're bullshit.
Yeah,
we might come up with something great that sticks. But now you got the pit stops, you got radio communication, people are listening in, you got strategy going on that the mechanics and the team manager are telling the rider, you got a goggle change.
Yeah.
All these things that are playing in. Someone could miss the bolt putting on the front axle. It's cost them 5 seconds, and now all of a sudden this guy just closed the gap, and now we got it's a 15-minute sprint. Somewhere in the first 15 minutes, you got to take on a gallon of gas and change both wheels.
Yeah.
And then you race from there on out. Now you got a strategy.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a bad yellow flag. You take advantage of that, just like at NASCAR. You got that.
Yeah.
You got the pit strategy of
Free
how
pit
you time
stop
your
in
caution.
F1, essentially.
And now you get the lucky dog. You had a crash and you're out, and now the yellow comes. You get the guy, first guy down on the lead lap, gets to come back around and get back on the lead lap all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Imagine that was Chase at a championship's on the line. Now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
this rule just changed everything. And now the fan has more things to factor into as they're watching.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it more exciting. And we've had an amazing sport, but we haven't evolved much with the times.
No,
We've stayed very static. And we are in an information age. And Supercross and motocross is not adapted to it yet.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But if they're guys down in Baja, in Dakar, all with air to surface communication or just mechanic comms or whatever.
Well, even like just a race control for safety.
Yes,
and like
the lappers, this whole lapper thing. How many guys have lost races?
Yeah.
Inadvertently.
Yeah.
Unintentional.
Well, think about there was the race this year where Eli didn't get docked, but he was like, remember he rolled the finish line and then Jet got docked because he jumped the finish line. It was at one of the Triple Crowns, and then like 5 dudes behind him, they all missed the flag to roll, and the race, it's the last, like the race is over, right? And they all got docked, so it fully changed the outcome of the overall. Cost Jet over $100,000. He won the fucking race, and it's all because the flaggy was behind the monster upright thing,
and he couldn't be seen,
and like no one could see him.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, guys, this was my like take on it. You had 5 of the best dudes in the world all fuck up the same thing. So is it on them, or do you think maybe you guys should be like,
we made a mistake?
Yeah. What was our role in this? But here comes, and you go, one guy, race control, goes, red cross flag on finish line. That's it.
Everybody heard it.
Everybody hears it. Nobody gets docked. Championship stays the same. Jet's 120 grand richer. Like, you keep the flow of the championship. You keep the flow of it. Like, nothing gets skew-if because of a flag. One dude, one flag. And it's just like, that to me, that I got so infuriated as a fan. I was like, I feel fucking violated. I feel violated right now. You just robbed me of my
You got bent over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a fan, I'm like, this is actually a joke. Like, I felt so let down by our sport, like obviously so many people, like whoever's fucking fault it was. I don't care. The sport let me down that night.
Yeah, like I'll bring
again
NASCAR
2024. 2024, and we're having a fucking flag decide the outcome of this race / championship.
Yeah, of a flagger that's different at every single race.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are just from your local motocross track, your local high school, friends of whoever, crash course training the day before, the morning of.
Yeah.
For this huge spectacle of a race, broadcast live globally. And we got local guys with flags that do one race a year.
Yeah.
With all this money at stake and careers. And oh, by the way, probably the most dangerous sport in the world too.
Yeah. And once it's done, it's done. Sorry, Jet. Sorry, bro. Sorry, Jet. Sorry, Ando. Sorry, Coop. Sorry, boys. Nothing we can do about it. Flag was out. And it's just like that to me. Again, just 2024. It's another reason. Like, And the F1 radio comms, bro, the commentators, as soon as they hear that little blip, they shut down. No one talks over team radio. It's the most critical audio. And then think about, again, shoulder programming. Every week mic'd up with Ken Roxon, mic'd up with Jet Lawrence, mic'd up with Haiden Deegan. Think about the things we've missed.
Think about the things these guys may say during a race if they got a mic on them.
But then think about what we missed with the Jason Anderson, Jet Lawrence thing in San Diego. Like, that's in the fucking promo of every super... But you just have two dudes in a helmet, like, facing it. You don't know. So it's like, we're fumbling the bag so heavy on the simple.
In my opinion, that's a simple one, right? I think you and I agree.
I know the dude at
and
F1
it's a
that could do
safety
it.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like we already have the radio comms where we've been using them for years. Like, all the off-road racing teams, like Honda, Kawasaki, KTM,
Just
at the
standard.
car.
Yeah, just standard.
They're doing the same comms in Baja. They're doing the Mint 400, the Cal 300 now. It's like, with Supercross and Motocross, no comms.
Yeah. Nah,
we've not evolved with the time that we're in. And I know, people high ups at Felden are listening to this podcast today, but we want the sport to be better. Yeah. We're not bagging on you guys. We think the sport's been amazing and where it's at. We want to keep raising that bar. And from where I sit, guys, I think there's a sponsorship opportunity to monetize this.
Dude, Cardo Systems is like, they're right. They want to do it. I know for a fact they want to do it.
Like, hey, Bose presents. Just like, look no further than the NFL and the PGA Tour as our case studies to implement here. That's where I always look.
Yeah.
Like, I worked on the tour for 12 years before I came over here. I looked at how we built the hospitality, how they could broadcast a PGA Tour golf event over 18 holes in the countryside. If they can do that, they can do an outdoor national, right? And thankfully, with the drones and the technology, they don't have to do the cabling, which was one of the big hangups for the outdoor nationals to get better coverage was all the cabling you had to run for the cameras.
The TV coverage is like dialed.
It's amazing how they've
they've fully
thrown with it.
Yeah, they've fully nailed that. Were you at Vegas? You were, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see you though all weekend. But the VIP stuff, like the big monster platform in the middle, was epic. They had the two VIP viewing stations behind the start line. So like all this to say, like they're doing it.
Yes, like these are all the great things. Like,
there's definitely like this progress. But yeah, this comes from like a couple frustrated fans. It's just like, fuck. And you know what? Lucky we're not the MXGP. We had Prado in here yesterday. Jesus Christ, they have got some issues.
Really?
Oh, bro. Hectic. Do you know how much money you get for winning the MXGP World Championship as a 450 rider?
Do they even get anything?
What?
And that's been like that for a decade.
What? I had no idea until yesterday.
Yeah, they changed it about a decade ago. And that's why.
I had no idea.
Well, they're not getting much more here until SMX came along.
Bro, I literally laughed out loud when I heard that.
Yeah.
Jorge fucking Prado made $0 for winning the world.
All of his compensation comes from the sponsorship.
20 races all over the world. Not a brass razoo from the fucking
Now,
MXGP.
why wouldn't all those guys want to be getting their butts over here and
Well,
cashing
they
in
are,
on
dude.
SMX? Like,
they are.
That's what Prado's seeing, right?
They are. Dude, Prado's coming. Kida Wolf's coming. Lucas Coonen's coming. Like, they're going to lose. It's like rats off a ship over there, dude. They're all one out.
Good.
It's crazy.
We'll have all the best here.
Yeah.
And it'll be great to see those guys at Supercross.
Hit up Bob. You need an agent?
Well, we can help you.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. But like we said, they're definitely like moving in the right direction. There's just some stuff you just wish that they'd pull the fucking trigger and tell us.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, we heard ya. We're working on it. And then I'll shut the fuck up.
Well, maybe we'll get a text after this is over about comms for Supercross and Motocross.
Pat, have you heard anything about the Netflix stuff?
I've heard a lot of chatter about it, but I haven't seen anything of substance.
Okay. What was the last you heard? Because Prado literally said yesterday he's pretty sure it's happening.
We've had some conversations. It's probably been 4 to 6 weeks, I'd say.
Okay.
Since the last, but it was
recent.
hot to trot for a while, and then I feel like it's calmed down. There's no new news for it. But man, if we could do something like what they've done with F1,
Do you think we missed the boat though?
could have.
That's kind of the thing that
We
worries
could
me.
have, but our fans are so passionate here.
Well, that's true. Like, so
If
you
we
look at
give them something new and unique,
you
we're
look
gonna
at those
gobble it up.
numbers. Those people are gonna watch that. And as far as me and Hammer were talking about it yesterday, like if we missed the boat on it, you know, and it's like we might have, but with the amount of fans that we have that are just desperate to watch it, surely that does enough to really keep that thing on the homepage of Netflix. Like if you get on the homepage of Netflix for an extended period of time, and, you know, you got Jet or Haiden as the cover image. Like, I mean, that's a couple fucking good-looking dudes, young guys making a boatload of cash. Like, I mean, it's pretty fucking appealing for people. And I'm glad you said about the prize money thing, right? Because it's the same thing as golf. Like, golf is the most stupid sport in the world until you know that a 3-foot putt can be worth like $10 million. And then all of a sudden you're just kind of interested. Like everyone can envision how they would feel to be standing over that thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're like, if you and I were out playing and it's a $5 putt,
Yeah, it means something.
on 18, and your knees are knocking.
Yeah.
Your knees are knocking, your hands
I
are
lost
shaking.
$20 the other day.
It was over $5.
It was
over $5 putt, and you're like, holy shit, I could not imagine what this is like to win Augusta, right?
Yeah.
Standing on 18 at Augusta to roll that putt in. Like I play Pinehurst a lot. I got a place down there, and so I play number 2.
When are we playing Pinehurst?
You want to come down? I got the place December 1 to 7.
Where is it?
Pinehurst, North Carolina.
That's where it is. All right.
U.S. Open was there this year.
That's right.
I'll take you out. You
Bryson
can relive.
DeChambeau's fucking
We'll
bunker.
relive 18.
Oh.
We'll go to the bunker on 18.
Did you see? Did you actually see the Golf Channel breakdown after Jeremy sent it to me? The guy that always he goes and he does and he was like, "Oh, I got the yips. I don't want to hit the shot," and then he hits the shot to like 3. Dude,
And Bryson was with him.
Yeah,
and they were re-going through the whole thing.
That was unbelievable content. Like such good content, man.
It's I'm gonna roast my son on this one, so when he's listening to this, he's gonna get a good chuckle. So he had that shot on 18 one year. And we were watching. He's like, I had this shot, Dad. That's the one I put into the clubhouse.
yeah, dude. It would be so easy to do.
Blades it out of that bunker, and that club's amazing. First of all, but if you're pulling it up, that
go to 18.
So the people sit along the deck there, looking over 18 green, having drinks, food, whatever, and John Q. Public's betting on you as you come down the fairway.
Yeah. Just everybody.
Everybody's watching you. You know they're betting on you, and you think about all the history of the U.S. Opens, Payne Stewart's putt there, DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson. The list goes on and on. So there's so much history there. And then here you have to hit this shot with all these people watching you, and we suck at golf. And you blade a shot, and you hit it into the kitchen, you hit it into the clubhouse. I've done it. It's inevitable, but to take you to experience that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
At that
So
place.
sorry, I cut you off. You brought up Pinehurst, so you were talking about what got us onto that.
I'm trying to figure out how we got on. We were talking about golf.
Well, I think just the whole like the way that the money ties into the prestige of the event and the relatability, like everybody can feel or everybody can understand what it feels like. But we were talking about this just the other day, and it's like it's the same thing. You bring a corporate client, and they're like, "What are these guys playing for?" It's like, "Oh, I think the winner tonight will get $12,000." It's like, "Yeah."
Exactly.
Seems kind of fucking lame, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, isn't this like a lot to go through?
If you're bringing we'll bring other motorsports brands out because people understand motorsports if they're in NASCAR or IndyCar, HRA. Our pool's smaller, so as someone that's out prospecting, You like, that's some lower hanging fruit because they're spending money in motorsports.
They already get it
So
to a
let's
degree.
add two-wheel motorsports to your marketing portfolio, Mr. Brand. And they're like, well, NASCAR's this way. How come there's no comms? Right? So can I get a
Can
scanner?
I listen to him?
Can I get
Yeah.
a scanner and listen to them?
Yeah.
What's the purse money? Oh, well, our purse money's this way. So really, how do the guys get paid? Well, they get paid from more of a salary and bonuses from their sponsors, and typically, their biggest sponsor is the OEM. Oh, so really it's the OEM that's underwriting most of this. Well, yeah, but we have our title sponsors that, this company, this company, this company, they're part of it, and it gets pulled together, but they're like, where's all these ticket sales and where does that go? And then like you go to the outdoor nationals, and I think it's 10 grand to win.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
It was lower than that for a while, but you can't make a living off those numbers. And so you're trying to tell these brands that, and they're like, well, where's my money go when I sponsor this?
Yeah.
You see what we go through and the challenges we're faced, and then we lose these brands because they just can't connect the dots, in my opinion. It's like,
and so how's it different in NASCAR, for example?
Well, in NASCAR, the purse money is huge, and there's a split between the team and the driver, and that's all negotiated. But the driver gets a cut of that $20 million. Like the Daytona 500, I think, was like $10-12 million purse this last year. And X percent will go to the team, X percent goes to the driver gets a salary, the driver gets, performance bonuses. The driver also has personal service agreements, a lot of them, because the team controls the IP of the car and the number. The driver controls his name, image, and likeness. XYZ brand comes in, they sponsor the team. That's the car, the number. The driver comes with that, but they can't market the driver as an individual. They have to sign a separate agreement with the driver in order to use the name, image, and likeness of that driver in their marketing and advertising.
We don't do that.
We don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that at all.
It's all
It
bundled,
comes with
and the
it.
teams control it.
Yes. Okay. What model do you prefer?
I prefer the NASCAR model. I think it's more fair and equitable
Okay.
to the athlete.
Yeah.
I also think our sport doesn't understand how this IP thing really works between team, OEM, and driver. Because even in NASCAR, like when you get down to the licensing, if we do a die-cast deal, for example, there's a royalty that goes to the OEM, which Ford, Chevy, Toyota. There's a royalty that goes to the race team because they own the number. That's their IP. And then there's the driver, whose name.
So yeah,
Royalty.
33.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty easy.
And right now in our sport, Phil does a licensing deal, or outdoor does a licensing deal, which there really aren't any happening, but the team is controlling these rights for the most part.
Yeah.
But then they still got to go back to the OEM and get the rights from the OEM to use the marks. We get creative on some of our licensing. We go OEM agnostic, like on a toy dirt bike, for example. There is no OEM reference. There's take a page from the freestyle movement.
Yeah.
Keep the OEM out. You control your look, your feel, your name. You get 100% of the royalties instead of the three-way split.
Yeah.
But we're not even doing that in our sport when you say comparable to NASCAR.
Yeah.
And how they're doing the licensing.
Yeah.
So like you look at the lights teams, everything's bundled together.
Yeah.
Everything's bundled together. And then you have your title sponsor, for example. They're like, well, I get exclusive rights to all these athletes. But if that were NASCAR and they had that team deal, they'd have to sign each athlete to an individual personal service agreement for those marketing rights.
Yeah, right.
And so let's go to like the NFL, for example. You see a lot of these ads, whether it's Patrick Mahomes and State Farm, for example. You don't see him in a Kansas City Chiefs jersey. You see him in a red jersey. You don't see any marks on it.
Can you pull up that? Just pull up like a Patrick Mahomes State Farm. Fuck, I love this shit. So interesting to me. All right, let's just.
Yeah, and what I've tried to do over the years is I just look at other sport.
All right, what do we got
Oh,
going
maybe
on
we
here?
might have a cheat. So that
Go up one, maybe.
yeah, that Kansas they may be paying. Yeah, it's a red jersey. It
There's no logo on it.
Right, just his name and number.
Yeah.
And Mahomes controls his name and number.
Yeah. There we go. There's Kelsey too.
Yeah.
Is this a Pfizer ad?
State Farm. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, there's no logos there at all.
And so that's how agencies will do an end around to avoid league fees and team fees.
Yeah. So how does the NFL is a franchise model. So how's that different to like, do you know how that works in comparison to like what we do as well? I never really understood the whole franchise thing.
Well, in the NFL, you got 32 individual owners, 32 billionaires, and they get vetted out amongst themselves as to who gets in their boys' club or not.
Yeah.
I think a model we may want to look at over here is how they're doing the over at NASCAR, and now they're doing it at IndyCar as well, which is the now I went brain dead.
Like then, as in terms of the
charters, they're
charter.
The charter agreements.
Yeah.
So they share in the TV money, just like the NFL. They share in that TV money, and so your smaller market teams, you're not as successful programs. Those owners are making more profit than your Jerry Joneses of the world,
because they're not having to pay like the crazy driver fees and all that sort of shit.
And they're just taking that TV money off the table, and their profitability and like your Jerry Jones, they're all in to win. We're gonna win. But that's a private boys club over there, and they vet out who gets in and who doesn't get in.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably one of the good things about our sport is that like I could fucking start a team tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I could go to the pit. It's obviously like it takes a lot of money to be competitive and then to pay right. Like, I mean, dude, what would Star Yamaha spend a year?
Oh, I'm not even privy to their budgets, but
ballpark.
Dude,
guess.
They got, all right, let's just simple math. If you got 450 riders over there,
$1 million each. Maybe not each.
On average. No, just do an average instead of.
Because it probably works out.
Yeah, you got here and here and here. And let's just say, I figure you got to be 5'6" with 3 guys, because you got 2 marquee guys over there. And then you get into what's their lights program?
27 lights riders.
I was just talking to Jensen earlier, and I said, dude, you got like 25 guys over. You're like, yeah, it's just about that. I'm like, no, really, what is it? What are you at right now? He's like, I think I'm 12 between pro and am. With what they got,
which is fucking amazing for the sport.
Yeah, I mean,
God bless him for doing it.
Do you remember when Bobby Reagan was in the back 30 of the pits,
dude,
with a straight hauler?
Yeah,
and he's been so passionate about this sport, and what Bobby's done has been amazing. Like the newer people, the younger people of our sport don't remember 15 years or weren't here 15 years ago when Bobby was just a passionate owner who cared about these kids, loved our sport, kept investing in it. And then you're sitting here looking at Yamaha factory. They couldn't win a championship for 20 years. And then they take a flyer with Bobby, and maybe it wasn't a flyer. Bobby earned that right by getting results and getting better and better. And then no sooner do they put their faith in Star Yamaha, and it's just been a championship machine.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I've always commended Bobby on, he played college football. He played at LSU.
No way.
Yeah, there was a story in Racer X they did on him, Davey, or someone did on him a while back, and it opened my eyes. I knew Bobby played football because we'd talk. My boys played ball, and we'd compare notes on the college football side of things. But I did not know how passionate he was, and then he was a car dealer, and the successes he's
just a winner.
He's a winner.
Yeah.
And he took that football mentality, and I've said this for years. I'm like, I don't understand how these OEMs are spending so much money on these kids. They need to spend the money on the kids. But they get about 9/10 of the way there. And what I think is the last most important nugget of that whole thing is the training of these guys. Now you're going to sign the 18-year-old, 20-year-old kid, 7-figure deal, high 6-figure deal. They say, you're on your own, go train. You need to be ready to race.
Yeah, imagine that football. See you Saturday.
Exactly.
Fuck no. You live here, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're giving these guys all this money. You're not watching their diet. You're not watching what they're eating. You're not paying attention to their training program. You're leaving it on a 20-year-old to challenge himself and push himself. And what? 1 out of 100 might actually have the tenacity to do that. Yeah, and now you want them to go spend money and invest in a trainer when these kids don't, they got alligator arms when it comes to finding their wallets when they get the money, unless it's going to buy Supreme or Gucci or a Benz or something like that. But they're not going to invest it into their careers. When talking football, Derrick Henry, the gnarliest running back in the NFL right now, he spends $250,000 a year on his food intake and what he puts in his body, as an example.
Yeah. I've
high
had this
performance elite athlete. And then Bobby's over here and he brings Swanee in. Okay, I want all these kids here. I want them under my thumb. I'm building a gym. I'm building a training facility. I'm building my own college football compound that I am going to keep my eye on my investments. That's smart business. I mean, I just don't understand. Bobby's been doing this for 10 years and no one else can't see that this works. Like, the level of investment that these OEMs are making, and then they just get to the finish line and they leave that nugget out. And everyone's like, why is Bobby winning so much? He's now investing in these amateurs. I mean, and developing them, again, looking at football and how these kids go to all these camps and travel ball and all that, and the investment these schools are making in them. It's the same darn thing, just a different sport, in my opinion. Same age group. I mean, you name any 16 to 20-year-old that you give a fat paycheck to that's going to be responsible. But yet we think they can be. And you're putting all that on them. And then that star rider gets hurt at A1 and he's out for 4 months.
Dude, so right. I had no idea that Bobby played college football. So I would always say you go to Star Yamaha, it's just scrimmage. I'm like using all these
Oklahoma's.
I'm using these football analogies and to describe what they're doing. It's like I had no idea that he played football.
Yeah, I think that's why he had a knee replacement, hip replacement, maybe both.
Yeah,
but he's had a hitch in his giddy.
He's a big dude, eh?
Yeah. You want to get Bobby going? Just sit down and talk football with him. That's how you get him. I love to break bread with Bobby and just talk outside of racing. But then he's so passionate about our sport.
Dude, I remember going in like 2012, maybe 2012, 13, and seeing Jeremy Martin wearing a black sweatshirt with Metal Mulisha, Rockstar on the Star Yamaha, pumping 35-minute motos at Parla, and just like with their little box van, the little Star crew with the quick shade.
Dude, Brian and I talk about that. I was like, could you imagine if Metal Mulisha was still on Star?
Dude.
All those championships, Mulisha gear, and Bobby, put Bobby in a Mulisha hat and thug him out. Do some content with Bobby and Brian.
How did that come about in the early days anyway with Brian and Mulisha?
That was us.
Yeah, okay.
That was our camp, obviously with Brian. That was really when Mulisha was pumping some numbers. Like they were rivaling Fox numbers, if I'm not mistaken, on the casual goods side. And we had put together, it started with the Rockstar deal when we moved Brian from Sobe No Fear over to Rockstar. And we put that deal together. And it wasn't just a deal for Brian. It was Brian wanted to take care of the crew. So it was a whole PSA endorsement for Brian, but then the Metal Mulisha team. And then we did a collab on the merch side, which was Rockstar Mulisha.
Yeah, I remember all that
and that
stuff.
blew up, and then Fox ended up doing a collab with Rockstar 2 down the road.
Yeah.
But that blew up, and then we activated it with the Mayhems of Rock tour. And we had freestyle demos that went on tour. And literally the freestyle guys became rock stars.
Yeah.
Literally rock stars on tour doing these demos for years. And that's how we started to build all that out. Was through that rocks. And so that licensing was working and working. It's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, like what else
Let
can we
that.
put this on?
We did
yeah.
the shoes with Etnies, and then we started doing some off-road wheels with four-wheel parts, the Mulisha line of wheels, and then that evolved into a Deegan 38 line of wheels. And Brian's like, dude, we should do gear. Like we should do Mulisha gear the way the brand's going. And we ended up cutting a deal with MSR.
Yeah.
And then we got the MSR deal, and we were doing good sales. And the way we structured it, we had a marketing budget, and we had input with the guys at MSR where we wanted those marketing dollars allocated. So we're like, dude, let's get into racing. And we got the deal done with Bobby because we brought him. We had the Mulisha MSR deal. We had, I think, we brought him a title sponsorship with a credit card company. You may not remember this, MyPlash.
Nah.
They're prepaid credit cards.
Yeah.
And they were called MyPlash. And each rider had his own image on the card. And they were the title sponsor for a few years with Bobby. Then we had the Mulisha MSR gear deal. And then Bobby goes and gets Cooper and Jeremy Martin. Look at what they accomplished. Had we kept that deal going, we laugh about, man, could you imagine Mulisha gear over there with Star Racing today? What it could be doing sales-wise in this industry?
I just find it so crazy just with the involvement that Brian had with Star so early on. And then just they're the best team, like just that full circle like that. You can't write that,
No, it's like God had a plan for us. And not to get, too spiritual, but I really believe that he's got the plan. And sometimes we just need to be quiet and quit trying to push square pegs in round holes and just
let it happen.
And they'll guide us. And it was a start of a great relationship for all of us over there. And then with Haiden coming through, we're just like, wow, that'd be kind of crazy if Haiden ended up over here. Like nothing was ever forced. Everything happened the way it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And how these partnerships have come
Even
together.
them having Monster at the time and just like
right?
Yeah.
Talk about stars lining up.
Yeah. Yeah, like that team could have had Rockstar or whatever, and then it's just like shit the whole program,
Yeah.
They're just fully lined up.
But that's those are the that gear deal thing was a really cool partnership we had there. But again, Mulisha Supercross gear, who would have thought it?
Yeah, and then just to what the team ends up becoming, and then Haiden becomes the marquee rider for the team. Like, just a wild story. So, you grew up in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Which is, obviously, you go, like, super far back with Brian. But how did you get into the whole motocross world? Like, so you were always a moto guy, or, like, how did you get into it?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy one. Yeah, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and...
Omaha! That's
thank you, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that's like the only thing.
And then he names his production company Omaha Production, which is
yeah,
great. Their content's awesome. But
it is,
and again, those are pages that we can take from other sports to integrate over here. You look at what the Manning brothers do. I just saw it on Monday Night Football, how they go into Monday Night Football and they break down the games. They have guests. Imagine if we had, Ricky and Bubba doing a pre-thing on Friday night Supercross.
Yeah.
And it was an hour and a half show. There's things like that we could steal from them. But back to, the question of how I got in this dang sport. But I grew up in Omaha, and in 1976, 77, 78, there was an outdoor national in Herman, Nebraska. And Herman is just outside of Omaha, farmland. And my dad took me out to the races. And I was like, this shit's cool. Like, I was racing BMX at the time, and I'm like, Dad, that's what I want to do. Like, going fast and jumping is my DNA. I was Evel Knievel, little kid. They'd call me that in the neighborhood. So I had that passion for moto. So we started racing, got involved, and rode a lot with Denny Stevenson.
Yeah.
Denny was closer in age to me. Brian was a few years younger than Denny, and like 6 or 7 than myself. So like when Brian was on 65s, I was on 125s and 250s, and obviously knew who he was, but like we're not hanging out back then when I'm 17 and he's 10, right?
Yeah.
But Denny was much closer in age to me, and I raced a lot against Denny as kids, and man, he's super talented, super talented. But I chased the dream. I didn't have the abilities that Brian and Denny had, obviously. Went on and did the college thing.
What'd you study at college?
Women.
A good answer.
But no, I started off in broadcast journalism. I went to Arizona State, and
great school for women. Great school for women, bro. I actually studied women in Scottsdale, Arizona. Every time I went there for the Waste Management Open.
The Waste. Oh God, can I tell you stories about that tournament from the heyday?
That place is Jesus, bro. Have you ever heard of the Melbourne Cup in Australia?
No.
So we have this race. It's our Kentucky Derby, right? And all the chicks just get dressed to the nines, and it's like the most beautiful women in Australia. They all go there. The Waste Management Open is like the Melbourne Cup at a golf tournament. I just couldn't. The first few years I went, I was like, bro, this is out of control. And then you go out in Scottsdale every night up. It's like fucking mind blowing. So anyway, going to Arizona.
I don't know where all the beautiful women come from, but it is like 100,000 of them at that Open, and it's literally 200,000 people are there on Saturday,
and 100,000 of them are hot chicks.
Yeah, walking around in like 6-inch stilettos at a golf course.
It's
like
insane.
My wife is like, she's from Phoenix. She grew up there, so her and I have been going to Phoenix Open since like '86. Like when the Bird's Nest was just a little tent.
Yeah.
And Wednesday nights at the Open in the heyday, the debauchery going on in the parking lots and outside of the Birds was like, wow.
Crazy. I couldn't believe it.
And you try to tell people this that haven't been to a Phoenix, and it haven't been to a Phoenix Open back then. And then there's like the modern age Phoenix Open of what it's become, because it's a spectacle now.
Yeah.
And I went 2 years ago, we went out, and I hadn't been there in like 10 years. And I was like, holy crap, has this changed? My wife and I are like, it's so commercialized now.
Yeah.
It's a commercialized party where before
it was a raw
It was
party.
A frat party.
Yeah.
It was an adult frat party.
Yeah.
is what it was for so many years. But it's funny you bring up the Phoenix Open, because it holds a really special place in my career for where I am today, because when I got out of college, when I was in college, I got some internships, and back to like what I studied, broadcast journalism. I met Mark Rolfing. As a golfer, I'm sure you know who Mark Rolfing is of NBC Sports Golf.
Yeah.
I got an internship from Mark.
No way.
When I was at Arizona State.
That's epic.
Right? Like insane. At the time, Mark owned a sports production company called Sports Producers of Hawaii. And they produced the Maui Basketball Classic, the Hula Bowl, the All-Star Game, the Kaanapali Classic on the Senior Tour, and the Mercedes Championship. They produced all of those for TV. And I had run into him at a conference, a sports conference, like how to get a career in sports. I went to it. And I met his general manager, and she's like, hey, I'm looking for an intern to come out for the Maui Basketball Classic over Thanksgiving break. And would you want to come out and work for a week for us? It doesn't pay anything. You have to fly yourself out, but we'll put you up. And I was like, I'm in. I'm like, whatever it takes. I want to be in sports. I want to be in sports broadcasting. I really thought I could be the next Bob Costas or Howard Cosell back then. That was my dream. And like back then, there was only 3 TV channels. Like ESPN had just come out. So this is like really real infancy. Like sports marketing wasn't even a term.
Yeah.
I was so far in front of this, but I had this passion, this dream that I wanted to do that. And so I got the internship with them, and I went over there and I worked the week of the event and learned all this stuff about TV and blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, I said, hey, could you help me when I get back to the States with a job or anything? And they're like, yeah, let us make a couple calls to NBC. And so he called the president of NBC Sports, like literally the president of NBC Sports, and introduced me to him. I'm like, no flipping way. And the next thing you know, I get the call, and they're like, hey, are you in Tempe? I'm like, yeah, I'm in Tempe. I go to school here, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, we cover the NFC, so all the Cardinal games, home games, we cover. We're going to cover we cover the Fiesta Bowl this year, and we need some runners. Will you be in market? We'd like to hire you for that. And I'm like, yeah. I was supposed to go. I'm like, no, I'm here. I'll stick around for it. So that got me in with NBC Sports. And then I was a runner. I was a PA.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that with NBC.
That's the ground floor.
Ground floor.
Yep.
Next thing you know, I was Marv Albert's runner in Phoenix. anytime Marv Albert came to Phoenix, I was his driver.
No way.
So I'd get to drive him around, ask questions, and rap with him. And so I was building my network as I was at NBC. So that year goes by, I go into my senior year, and they call up and they're like, hey, we know you're graduating this semester. And do you know anybody that would want to come out? Because our tournament coordinator for the Mercedes is pregnant and she's due tournament week. We need to have a backup plan in case she goes into labor. I'm like, me. Like, no. You got to graduate. It's your last semester. I'm like, no. This is me. I want this. I like, please. And so I go back to my dean of the college and I said, hey, I got this opportunity to work on the tour, to get this experience. I know I've used up all my credits for internships, but I want to take a 1 semester sabbatical, leave of absence, to go do this. And I'm like, 1 semester, you don't come back to second, you're out, you won't graduate, blah, blah, blah. So I went over, I did that, and I did the Mercedes. Amazing experience, like just, and this is crazy. At the time, they had a super senior event, which was the 60 and up, not just the 50. There was a senior, which is 50. Super senior, and it was called the Vantage. And I get assigned to Vantage, which is owned by R.J. Reynolds, who also owned Camel Cigarettes, who was the sponsor of Supercross, Camel Supercross, and the guy running the Vantage was in charge of Camel Supercross. Yeah. We're best buddies to this day still. And he would get me tickets to the Supercross races to go check them out.
Keep going.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I got reconnected, because I was in college. I sold all my dirt bikes. I wanted nothing to do with racing anymore. I mean, I sold my helmets. I sold everything, because I knew if I kept anything, the magnet would just pull me back into this sport. I just knew it would happen. So I'm going down the golf rabbit hole and career and the tour, and it's good and affluent, right? It's not a bunch of dirt bike riders. So I'm going down that road, and I get out of college. I get in the golf business. A couple years go by. I end up getting a job on the senior tour up at Desert Mountain. It's the Augusta of the senior tour, and I'm selling their sponsorships. I start selling their sponsorships.
So how did you get into the sales side of it?
When I left college, I got a job at a golf instruction company. So golf schools, you're a golfer, so you probably know there's vacation golf schools. Yeah. People travel to posh 5-star resorts, spend a week there,
get some
play
coaching,
golf, get some coaching, nice meals. It's a boondoggle.
Yeah.
So I got a job at a company in Scottsdale that ran these golf schools, and I became their director of sales and marketing. And so I was just telemarketing and selling and doing corporate outings. You got the who's who of corporate executives that come to these golf schools. And so like, oh, who do you work for? What do you do? Oh, let us bring Bob in. He's going to talk to you about some of our corporate events and outings and how we might be able to help you guys. You may want to sponsor a tour event if you need to grab that.
No, sorry. Just.
So they, that was how I started selling in golf, doing that. And then this opportunity came up on the tour to sell the sponsorships there. And I remembered when I was back in Hawaii watching their sales guy. His name was Dick McLean. And I used to sit there and watch him in the office. I was like, I want that guy's job. What does he do?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, he just plays golf with sponsors. I'm like, he just plays golf with sponsors? Like, yeah, he gets paid well too. And I'm like, really? I freaking want that guy's job. Like, I want to do that. And so that kind of resonated in the back of my mind. And then when 4 years later, this opportunity comes up with the senior tour to sell the sponsorships, I'm like, I don't know if you know Desert Mountain, but that is the who's who of golf courses in the West Coast. Yeah. 7 Nicklaus signature courses. All the professional athletes in Arizona were living there. It's the who's who. And so I was like, I want to sell sponsorships there. And so I got the chance to start doing that. I got in and started having some success with it. And it's just kept snowballing from there. But in 96, I got a phone call from the guys that ran our transportation for the tournament, because this Desert Mountain's on the side of a mountain, and it's from the front gate to the golf course is 6 miles. A privately gated community. It's a big property, 8,000 acres. And so there's not big parking lots at a private golf community to host a PGA Tour event. So you got to create temporary parking structures, or you clear parts of the desert out and compact it and temporary lighting and all that. And then how do the people get from the parking lot to the golf course? And we got to create a shuttle transportation system. And so we created this system. And lo and behold, the 96 Olympics had transportation issues, and our transportation company had won the contract for the 96 Olympics transportation. And they called me up and they're like, hey, the Olympics is looking for someone that has experience in working with temporary structures, temporary hospitality structures, and transportation with them. And he's like, I couldn't think of anyone better than you. And he's like, would you want to work the 96 games? I'm like, yeah. I said, I can't go until April. You know, games are in August. I go, I can't go until April because the tournament's always the first week of April. I go, I can leave after that and go to the games. So I end up going down there interviewing. One thing leads to another, I get the job. 96 Olympics, I was hired as a consultant to run Centennial Park and the Global Sponsor Village, all the logistics. You know what happened at Centennial Park at the 96 games?
No.
A bomb went off.
Oh, no shit.
That was my venue.
Wow.
Yeah. Gnarly.
Fuck.
That was where my crew, those my people.
No way.
The whole 9 yards.
And you weren't there at the time?
No, my wife loves this story. I ended up hiring my wife. When I got down there and I got situated, I'm like, this is a mess. I got people that don't know events. They don't know what they're doing. We're set up to fail. And I was like, so I went back to management and said, hey guys, I need to bring in some ringers. I got to bring some people in that I got experience with that I can trust in the heat of battle if I'm not there. So like, okay, bring in 4 people. Bring my wife, a couple of the people from the tour I worked with. And you know, we're in the middle of the games, and it's literally probably running on about 4 hours of sleep for over a month. It's just, you're just wide open at the Olympics. An amazing experience. So she's like, hey, we've all been working our asses off. Could you just schedule us all off on one night together? Because I'd split our calendars up, so I always had coverage.
Yeah, like
whatever
shifts,
shift,
basically.
I had someone that was my homie, that had my back, that I could trust in the heat of battle. She's like, just one night, let us all go out together. We've been working our asses off. I'm like, okay, let's go do Buckhead. We'll do it Friday night, whole 9 yards. And back then we had brick phones and pagers.
Yeah.
The pagers. And she's like, no radio, no phone. And I'm like,
this is going to be tough.
I'm like, honey, none of us are there. Like, she's like, no disruptions. Just let us be friends. Let us have fun. This one night, 3 hours. I'm like, I remember the bar I'm in. I remember where I was standing. I walked up to get everybody drinks. I think it was 1:10, 1:14 in the morning. And I'm looking at the TV of what had just happened. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me that this is not happening to me right now. This cannot be happening. And I look over at the table and they're talking, having a blast. And I go over there and I'm like, I don't have a phone. I don't have a radio. And the bomb just went off at our venue. Like I can't do anything. Nothing. I'm defenseless. And it's like our protocol, what they had trained us was no comms if a bomb goes off, because if you start communicating, radio comms could trigger other bombs, electronic devices, improvised devices in the area. So we had to shut down all comms. And I couldn't go there. So I'm like defenseless, waiting for the news and the information. But my guys that were working did an amazing job. I had, this is pretty cool. I had a couple kids that were working for us that had come from Chicago. And one was in law school down in Georgia, but he was sent there by one of the gangs. The gangs paid for his education.
Really?
They wanted to get, like, hey, you're a smart one. We want to get you out of here. We want to get you educated. The gang sent him to college. So cool.
Yeah.
And so him and his buddy, afterwards, all this time, I was like, man, like, how'd you guys handle this? He goes, dude, street warfare.
Yeah, we've been living this shit.
We've been living this shit. He goes, I can't tell you the amount of people I've tied, when I say tied up, like tourniqueted from bullet wounds and things like that. He's like, dude, we knew exactly what to do. I was like, God, you're amazing.
Wow.
Right? Like I got goosebumps.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of other bombs that weren't. Yeah, I just should. I don't want to talk about that part. But
yeah.
But it was gnarly. It was gnarly experience as a sports marketer, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say, I got to do that, and thankfully it wasn't worse.
Yeah.
But as an experience, like you're talking about
Yeah,
how I
just
got
a
here.
Crazy experience.
So I lived in Atlanta, and there's a method to this madness, believe it or not. So made some really good friends in Atlanta while we were down there. And a few years goes by, fast forward to 2000, and I had some frequent flyer miles I needed to burn. And it was like a week before they expired. I just realized, I'm like, shit. I'm like, where can I go to burn this ticket? And I was like, oh, Atlanta Supercross is next weekend. I'm not in the sport. I'm in golf. Like, I don't know anybody in this sport. So I go down there with the ticket, go to the race, hang out with my friends. It was a boondoggle, burn the ticket. I'm flying home, sitting in first. Guy sitting next to me, start rapping with him. Bobby Moore. What do you do? What do you do?
No way.
And I'm like, dude, I remember you in amateur motocross. Like Bobby, I haven't seen you since Lake Whitney when I was a kid. And I was like, well, what are you doing now? He's like, oh, I work at Spy. I'm the goggle rep, blah, blah, blah. He was still doing some riding. And he's like, I'm working with riders. I was like, oh, tell me more. Like, what's the money like? Who's doing what? Who are the guys? Like, what's going on? And he's like, well, Jeremy's doing all these things. He's got 1-800-COLLECT. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm like, and so he's like, you're in the golf business? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, up at Desert Mountain. He's like, oh, we love golf. He's like, he goes, could you get me out at Desert Mountain sometime? I'm like, yeah, let's go tee it up. So we tee it up. We start becoming buddies. About a year goes by, and Bobby calls me up. He's like, hey, MC's, Supercross is coming to town. MC wants to play golf. Can you get us up at the mountain? I'm like, yeah. I go, I'll get us up at the mountain. Well, it was San Diego. I think San Diego was coming up before Phoenix.
Yeah.
2000. Jimmy got hurt at San Diego Supercross, where Jimmy got hurt.
Yeah.
And Donovan Mitchell had just been hurt. He suffered his injury. And Bobby's like, man, he goes, I'd really like to do something for them. Like, can we raise some money?
Yeah.
And at the time, I was doing the golf, like up at Desert Mountain in the tradition. And because I was up there, a lot of the NFL players, Major League Baseball players live up there. There was a football player by the name of Mike Utley. Mike was the last NFL player that was paralyzed, waist down. And he created a foundation called Thumbs Up. And he was represented by ProServe. ProServe was the be-all, end-all. Like, they're like IMG. It was ProServe and IMG back in the day.
Like
they were the big dogs.
Yeah.
And so ProServe's football offices were in Phoenix. And Utley created a foundation, and it was housed out of ProServe's football offices, their global headquarters. And they approached me because I'm the guy at Desert Mountain. I'm the sponsorship guy. I'm doing all these things for the tournament. They're like, hey, we have this big annual NFL celebrity golf tournament every year with all 32 teams to raise money for spinal cord research. We're looking for someone to run and manage the events for us. Would you Desert Mountain, would you want to do that? And I'm like, as long as it doesn't conflict, blah, blah, blah. So we ended up signing him as a client. And for 10 years, I represented the foundation and ran these fundraisers and events for them. So that's what got me introduced to representation, because when I wasn't at Desert Mountain working on the tradition, they gave me the ProServe football offices to run the event out of. And so I'd go down there, and their offices where all their NFL agents were. And the NFL agents are like, hey, Brett Favre's in town. Can you get us up to the mountain? Hey, Mark Chmura's in town. Hey, Joey Galloway's in town. Can you come join? And you can't just send people out at a private club. You have to host them.
You have to take them.
You got to handhold them.
Yeah.
Which means Bob's playing golf every day.
Yeah. Bugger.
World-class golf, world-class athletes. And I'm 26, 27.
Far out, dude.
Right? Like, talk about stumbling on some stuff. And so I'm doing this, and I'm playing golf with these guys, and I'm playing golf with these agents, and I'm like, dude, you got the easiest freaking job in the world. Like, you're just, what do? You watch film every day. Like, I can do this. So you speed it up, and I end up getting another phone call from a client at UPS who's the cousin to Royce Clayton, and Royce Clayton was the first draft pick of the Major League Baseball draft. He replaced Ozzie Smith for the Cardinals. He's like, hey, I want to do a baseball charity tournament at the Mountain. Can you do that for us? Yeah. So his agent was Arn Tellem. And for those of you who don't know, Arn's one of the most powerful agents in all of sports in the world. So I get to know Arn, and I say, hey, I got an idea. He's like, yeah. I said, action sports, X Games, Supercross, motocross. He's like, yeah. I said, these guys are making money. And I said, there's nobody representing them. I'm like, I feel like there's an opportunity over there. I said, but I don't know how to represent people. I go, I'm really good in the sponsorship world. Arn says, write a business plan for me. I'm like, all right, write the business plan, give it to Arn. He's like, hey, I think you're onto something here. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'll be partners with Arn Tellem. And he's like, no, I'm too busy. He's like, you're going to do this yourself. I'm like, okay. How? He goes, you know the athletes? I go, whoa, we know some. He goes, you sign the athletes, the phone will ring. He goes, you'll be good at this. I'm like, really? He's like, you got to go for it if you want to do it. And we went for it in 2001. August of 2001, I incorporated a new company to go into action sports for representation. In addition, I had the golf company, which was big, full-fledged. I had like 9 people working for me. And I come in the office and I say, hey, guys, we're now in a new direction. I'm like, we're getting into action sports and supercross motor. And mind me, these are all golf people. And they're like, did you just fall and hit your head last night? Or if you lost your mind?
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. And so we went for it.
And did you stop the golf stuff completely?
No. So I rode the golf stuff out because I knew that the tradition was going to relocate in 04. And I need to start pivoting in my head. I'm looking down the road, like, I got to pivot. Do I want to be known as the guy running celebrity golf tournaments for foundations for professional athletes, or do I want to do more with my career? And I'm like, this is not my end goal. This is not what I set out to do. I wanted to do bigger.
You kind of like fell into that.
Right? I didn't go looking for it. It came to me, and as a business owner, being opportunistic and trying to build a business, and then
it's still
being with all these athletes and teams is a huge
great
network.
Foundation, right?
Correct.
Like you just like laid the foundation for you.
And a huge network, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I gotta pivot, and I don't know what the pivot is. And then when this just kind of started evolving over here on the action sports and the supercross thing, and as I started talking to more friends, I had another buddy in the surf in the skate and snow world, and he started talking to me about what was going on. And I'm looking at the Olympic snowboarders in '98, going, oh, it's coming.
And having it in your DNA too.
I grew up doing this from the 70s. Like, I was 20 years ahead of my time.
Yeah.
I watched these kids now, and I'm like, God dang it, if I could have had this opportunity when I was a kid growing up, who knows what I might have accomplished, but that's not in the cards. God's got other plans for me to do other things. And I think this is it. So I was like, I want to do more. And I told Arn, and he's like, you got to go for it. So I ended up going for it. And August of 2001, started a company with no clients, no capital, and 5 new employees overhead that I was paying for out of my pocket. You know what happened on September 11th, 01? And you start a company from scratch in a sport that nobody knows about? Yeah. Yeah. Made it. Made it.
That's insane.
So so I knew in 04
Yeah.
that was the tournament was gonna move on somewhere else, and then eventually Peter Jacobson bought it and took it to Portland, Oregon, and became the Gelled Win. And I used, 01, 02, 03 to do both jobs. And then I was like, the action sports company really took off, and I'm like, I don't need the golf thing. Like, we'll just let that sail away, and I'll just play golf. Like, I'll use golf as a business tool for this world over here. And then, that happened, and it took off in 03? Yeah. 03, I got a call from Casey Wasserman. He just acquired Steve and Steve's company. And I think Casey said something to the fact that, hey, who else is out there? Like, who else do we need to be paying attention to? And he's like, these guys in Phoenix. And so Casey called us over a year. It took a while to get it all worked out, but he acquired us and merged, the family and Action Sports Management together, which basically I think Steve and the family, they had like 25 to 30 clients. We had right around 25 ourselves between skate, snow, and moto. It merged us together, and overnight we had the top 50, 60 athletes in the world of action sports. Owned it. Just done. So
that is so insane.
Yeah.
It's like a movie.
Oh, it I want to write a book on it. When I'm done with the industry, and I think it'd be a really cool book to write. I feel very blessed. I don't want to be arrogant about this because you got to create your own luck.
Oh, for sure.
Right? It's like, I wasn't a rich kid. Like I worked hard. I wanted to race dirt bikes. My dream didn't come true, but I found another faction within sports that was a dream. And I went from broadcast journalism to sports marketing, and I really was part of an industry at the infancy of what it is today, where sports marketing is an incredible pillar of marketing out there, right? Because when I was coming up, you say sports marketing, like, what the hell is that? It was just marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
And so when I went over there, I wanted to stay on the corporate side. I wanted to keep doing the corporate deals, and coming into an organization with Wasserman and what they were building, the goals and objectives to be what they are today it was really, really exciting. And I'm like, I want to do the big corporate deals. I want to do the sponsorships. You guys take the athletes. You guys do the athlete thing. I know all the athletes. Let me go do this, and I'll bring the deals over here, and we'll start seeding them, for whoever it may be. And my direct report became Steve Phelps. Steve's now the president of NASCAR. He was my direct report. So it's your network at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And kind of funny how we end up in NASCAR too.
Yeah. Dude, what a story, man.
Yeah. And so the last little nugget to all this, it makes it even more interesting. So back to the Mike Utley Foundation. My PR communications comm coordinator. She had just gone through a divorce, and she was like, hey, can you introduce me to your friends? You and Heather got friends, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. So Heather and I are rapping. I'm like, who could we, introduce Jamie to? She's like, I think Steve. And I was like, oh, they'd be a good couple. And buddy Steve, he's big in sports marketing. He was at Miller Brewing at the time, and we introduced him on a blind date. They end up getting married. Still together to this day. We're all really great friends. We laugh about the story, right? But Steve ends up getting hired at Omnicom to run their sports division.
Which is the huge ad agency.
Steve calls me. Hey, what's going on? One thing leads, I'm like, well, he goes, what's going on since Phelps left? I'm like, well, they haven't really replaced him. I don't know. He's like, I got an idea. I said, I'm listening. One thing leads to another. A few months goes by. Next thing you know, they convinced me to start connections for Omnicom from the ground up and come in as the CEO of the organization within Omnicom. I'm like, are you telling me I got access to all of our ad agencies and all of our PR agencies and all the creative shops? And they're like, yeah, and you're coming in at the C level, so you'll interact at the C level across all agencies. And I am like, where do I sign? Like, oh my God, I am the fox that was let loose in the chicken house for sponsors, right? Like we are the global agency for Pepsi. We are the global agency for Chrysler. We are, the list goes, the global agency for Miller Brewing. And now I'm going to get to go in these meetings with these ad shops and hear the marketing plans. Like, the way it works in these big global agencies is we're top down. So it's like, here's the ad agency, here's the PR agency, here's the sports marketing agency, here's the talent agency, all within the same organization, all under different names, all different P&Ls, everybody sharing the data and information together. And I'm like, oh, this is like, as a sports marketer,
yeah, that's the whole thing.
I got everybody. I got access to everybody now. And so that's my network. No one can,
Yeah, that's it.
And so, and that network still sticks with me today. And it's like, people are like, where do you find these deals? Like, and like my staff will say, hey, I'm across so-and-so. Will you look in your LinkedIn and see who you know across this company? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, so-and-so's I haven't seen in 10 years. I'm like, I need to get reconnected with them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it just happened with another brand, guy I worked really, really closely with. He's a senior vice president of marketing for this brand, and we've been chasing him, and I had no idea I'd worked with this guy for 8 years.
That's crazy, eh?
And then I like look him up. He's on my phone. I text him, what are you doing? He goes, are you still with the Deegans? I'm like, I am. He goes, dude, I was at the race in Chicago. I had no idea that was Haley from The Little Girl. And I'm like,
that is wild, eh?
And so our clients, they laugh about, who does Bob not know?
Yeah.
Who have you not come in contact with? Of course you know them. Like, it's just an ongoing joke, or it's like, oh, let me guess.
Yeah.
They're from Arizona State.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's crazy how the 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
And my kids have always given me a hard, like, why do you always ask where people are from? Why do you always ask what school they went to? Why do you ask where they grew up? I'm like, because you just don't know. You just don't know. And it's like, I'll give you another perfect example. I'm on a hunting trip last December in Texas. We pull up, I've been on a couple hunting trips with this guy. He's like, yeah, this is my buddy. I forget his name, Bart, whatever. And we're rapping, and one thing leads to another, and he says something about Nebraska. And I said, dude, you're from Nebraska? He's like, yeah. I'm like, where from? He tells me the other side of the state. And I'm like, dude, that's a town of 6,000 people. I had 3 college roommates from that town. I was like,
do
you know so-and-so? Do you know this? He's like, yeah, she was my boss growing up in high school. And I'm like, her brother was my college roommate, and what would it be? Her sister's husband, whatever that is, brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Is my financial planner. I'm like,
insane.
On a hunting trip in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
Yeah.
You get connected like this. And he's like, and oh, by the way, he's the marketing director for one of our sponsors for one of our clients.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why I asked.
But there's
because you just don't know. It's your network.
Yeah. And it's no secret. There's no secret to why some people are successful in the way that they are, you know? Like, there's people that, like Davey Coombs I always use this example with him. Like, he just will remember your name.
He's a historian.
You know, he's just, he will remember your name. And there's a thing, you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People?
I've heard of it.
You should read it.
I've heard of the book. I'm terrible at reading books unless there's a lot of pictures.
No, you would read this book. It's brilliant. I'll buy you a copy. It's a gift for doing the podcast.
Okay.
I'd love for you
and I'll read it.
So the first thing that this book says is, what's the most important thing to a person? Their name. You know, so there's just
that identifies who you are.
Yeah, it's
right?
who you are. You know, so there's just these little things, and I think that the people that have so much success in their life, there's nothing like crazy special about these people. Everyone shit's the same. Like, everyone, you know, we're all the same thing, but there's people do certain things that lead to the success, you know, and it's like, just with you asking where people are from and just like taking a genuine interest in people, and so all of a sudden doors just start to open out of you being like the kind of person that you are, you know, and just sort of like following where life takes you and taking the opportunities that life does give you. And I always say, you know where a no gets you, and it's nowhere. And there's certain people that they just say yes to things. They say yes. Like, all of this traces back to you and that internship.
Going for it.
One thing. Literally one turning point in your life that just lays it's like you just get the carpet and you just roll and you just walk along the thing as it's unfolding in front of you over 50 years, you know?
It's interesting you say it that way, because one of my Bobisms or sayings is, life is a series of forks in the road. And it's the decision that we make at each fork in the road that ultimately determines where we end up in life.
Yeah.
And I've used that with my children growing up. I'm like, we got a fork. There's a fork in the road decision here.
Mm-hmm.
Got to really think this one out.
Yeah.
The impact.
Yeah.
This way means, and we don't always have the crystal ball, right? But it's a series of crossroads.
It's knowing when you're at those forks
Yeah,
too.
a lot of times
because
we
a lot of
don't
times
know, right?
you just walk past them.
Yeah, and you're like, oh crap, it's too late. I can't go back and change that. And the other thing is, all that we have is our name. That's all we have is our name and what people think of us when they say that.
And what people attach to that name.
Yes. That sticks with us after we leave this planet, right? That's the only thing is our name. And so it's your network and your name and how people view you and look at you. And are you a good guy? You a nice guy? That's someone I like. That's someone I enjoy working with. People will spend money with people that they trust, they enjoy being with.
They enjoy being around.
Right? And so sales is a relationship to me. And some of my best friends in life are clients, past clients.
Yeah.
That we developed those friendships. We just became friendships because of the business.
And
then the business became fun because of the friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've done great things together.
Yeah.
But again, I think people really lose sight, especially in this day and age, because everything is so transactional.
Yeah.
You know,
everyone wants it now. Everyone wants it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they forget about it, and there's no thank yous attached to it.
There's nothing
There's
genuine
no
about
appreciation
it.
attached to it.
Yeah.
And that bums me out because I'm old school.
Yeah.
I'm like, pick up the phone, make the call, have the conversation, good, bad, or indifferent.
Play the round of golf.
Don't break up.
Yeah.
Don't break up over text.
Yeah.
Don't cancel a contract over text. I know you don't want to do it. It's freaking painful, but you sure feel better after you've had that conversation, right?
It's so I went through a situation. I basically had this conversation yesterday with one of our sponsors, right? So, won't say who, but if he listens, he'll know. They got bought, lost a bunch of money, or like lost a bunch of budget, you know, like, so then he had that hard conversation with me, like, hey mate, like we can't, like my hands are tied, like I just don't have the money anymore, right? And I was like, mate, he was fucking gutted because like the guy's a friend, you know, he's like, actually, I'd go and have dinner and beer with the guy any day of the week, anytime. And then he's like, man, I hate doing it. And I was like, bro, this is fine. Like, yeah, like this actually sucks. Like I need to like figure the money side. But I'm like, as a friend, like we're fucking Gucci, bro. Like this is all good. I respect you. You're the man. I know that this isn't coming from you. But then anyway, so some weeks go by, get another call. Hey, I think we can figure this out, you know? And it's like, I don't know what the terms, I don't know I want to keep working with a guy, good guy. It's just there's a relationship with the person that you want to keep doing things with people that you have great and genuine relationships
and
with.
They'll go out of their way for you too.
It's so valuable and it's so important. And what's 1 year?
Right.
You know what I mean? 1 year is nothing. You want 2, 3, 4, 5. You
the
can
longevity.
build, and every year you can get bigger and better and better and better with like the time that you put in and the relationships that you build. Like the things that really matter in the deals that you make is the relationships with the people that are involved. You know,
I'm glad you get that because I think a lot of people today just don't understand that value proposition and the importance of it. And it's easier to grow an existing relationship than it is to continually going out and finding a new one and nurturing it and growing and building it and getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Because it takes at least a year, if not longer, to get to know each other.
For sure.
Like when we're putting sponsorship deals together, I'm like, guys, we should really do 3 years because the first 18 months
I completely agree.
are ramp up and getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And then we're finally hitting our stride and the deal's over.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I really don't know. I want to do this. I'm like, if we had that third year on it, it would have given us that whole last year to really hit our stride. And you'd be like,
it goes
okay.
like this. It's like flat for a bit.
And then boom.
And then it goes up. Yeah.
And then you see that success and you're like, yeah, we're in. We're going to double down. We're going to triple down.
And the
and
deals.
keep growing it.
And I hope people listening can like apply this to other things in life too. Not necessarily
this just
like
isn't moto.
Yeah.
Like
this is life. Yeah. But even to be on the kind of level to where it's like, all my sponsors can literally text me at 11 o'clock at night. You know, like that's the real value in like relationships as well, is like that's when shit can get done. Like shit can actually get.
Were you thinking about that last night when we were texting at 10?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is rad. He's on the same planet as me. I'm
But
like, I'm going.
Bro, if you're just like, if your relationship with like a client or a sponsor or a whatever is like 9 to 5, it's fucking impossible to get shit done. Like there literally isn't enough
I need,
time in a day.
I need 8 p.m. to midnight to get other crap done. And that's like, I am just a text warrior, knocking shit out, getting it on. And I sometimes like, man, I'm like, sometimes I'll send it to someone that's new in my sphere.
Yeah.
And they're probably going, what the hell is this guy on at midnight texting me? Like,
but that's like, and that's why I think, it's relationships and it's like being, you don't have to, I guess, I don't know whether like you have to be friends with people, but like to have that kind of like real relationship where you're like, you're in this together. If we're working together, we're working together. Like we're all on the ship and we're all going to fucking make this thing sail. And it's like, you got to be able to text a 10 to make a relationship really work, because that's how hard it is to go back to what we were speaking about way at the start of the podcast. Is like, that's how hard it actually is to like make shit happen these days. And you can't do it in a year. You gotta like, there's just this compounding effect that you need to be able to have to like make anything work these days, you know?
Yeah. And you're right. It does take a long time to get these deals together. With the technology, you think it'd be faster, but it's taken longer for what, I don't know, the vetting out process. I don't know if it's the COVID hangover that we're going through still in making business decisions, or if it's, the state of our economy and the world where we're at.
I think that's really what
there's
it
a lot
is.
of
Everyone's like
people
apprehensive.
I feel like CFOs are sitting there going, it makes a lot of sense, but I just want to wait a little bit longer. I'm like, God dang.
Well, they want to play it safe because
every CFO wants to play it safe. There's a reason there's not an M there and there's an F there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finance, marketing.
Yeah.
Us marketers are like, let's go. Let's spend money. Finance, no matter how good no. I want a higher bottom line because it looks better to the investors, right?
Well, and it looks better when their bonus comes around, or when they just, people don't want to put their own.
But us marketing guys are over there going, we didn't get to do any cool shit this year because the CFO tied our hands.
I am always excited to partner with great brands that I personally use. Quadlock has a wide array of products that integrate seamlessly into every facet of my daily life, whether at the office, en route to my next adventure, or during the adventure itself. Quadlock makes it easy to keep my essentials charged, secure, and in reach. Recently, I've been using the handlebar mount for my phone alongside the new action cam mount. The action cam mount takes away the fuss of tightening screws and gives you that simple Quadlock quarter turn, making installation and removal of your action cam quick and easy. On my last adventure ride across Vietnam, I even crashed the bike and a Quadlock mount kept my phone secure. Quadlock's vibrating dampener is a must-have with smartphone applications to protect your camera's internals from harmful vibrations. Quadlock is designed for any day, any adventure. Go to quadlockcase.com to find your specific application, or use the 360 kit builder to discover how interchangeable all these mounts can be. And use the code GYPSYGANG for 10% off your purchase and elevate your next adventure with Quadlock. Yeah, what's the, maybe that's a good place to kick this back off, is like, what's the, like, it's so hard to, when you're doing deals, to have people that are always happy. Like there's someone that's like, fucking Bob's a dog, he did. But it's like, you're doing deals. There's a winner in a deal and there's a loser in it. I don't know whether there's always a win. I try never to do winner loser deals. But there are times where deals don't work out. You have to leave. You have to walk away from deals. Yeah, like, I guess, what's the bad side of the business?
That's a really good question. The bad side of the business, I wouldn't say, is not necessarily the negotiation side, but we do, we take some bullets. But we're here, as I tell our clients, I go, I'm here for you. Like, I am here to represent you.
Yeah.
I will take the bullet all day long for you, as long as you understand I'm taking the bullet.
Yeah.
Like, I will take the bullets for you all day long because you're my boy or my girl. Like, we're together. And I've never had an issue where my client didn't like, not understand that, right? So I'll take those bullets. Do I like taking the bullets? No, but that's my job.
And what does that look like?
Being MF behind the scenes, people trying to smear your name or your credibility. It's more of that. My philosophy on negotiating, though, is I like to leave meat on the bone, if that makes sense. In my early years of sales training, I sold cars, believe it or not, and I got to go through some really good sales training. I think if you want to be good in sales, go sell cars. It's dog eat dog, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I learned it was a 4-square process. And hey, if I get you this price here at this payment here, and I gave you this for your trade in, would you sign here today? That shell game. And I didn't like that shell game, because I felt like that wasn't leaving meat on the bone. It was to confuse the consumer to get your sale, and you could play the numbers however you wanted. And again, that didn't sit well with me. I always try to look at myself, if I'm selling to you, I'm trying to think about what you're thinking about and what you're going through and how you're processing. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and try to figure out what the challenges are. Now I'm asking as I go along, but I'm always trying to look at through your lens, not my lens, because you're looking at things completely different than what I'm trying to sell to you.
Yeah, the objectives are completely different.
Exactly. So I always try to do that. I can't say sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I always feel like if I can leave some meat on the bone, they're going to leave happy and feel like I didn't rape them, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if there's some extra meat on the bone, they can use it to activate. They can use it to bring the deal to life. They can use it for other things. And then they feel like I didn't.
It gives you room to over-deliver.
Yes. I love to under-promise and over-deliver. I hate when I get put into a situation where I over-promised.
Yeah, and you just
and
tapped
I
out
really,
trying to make it
really
happen.
strive hard to stay out of that. Let's not over-promise and under-deliver, because we want to make ourselves look good. We're in this for the long haul.
And you
we
want
know
year
how
two,
hard it is
and
to
you
get
want
these
year
deals,
three.
and we
Yeah.
want that longevity. We want to grow it. And a lot of our partners we've been with a long, long time, and they leave not because of something we did or things gone wrong. Headcount changes, CMO moves on, marketing philosophies change,
Company
no fault
gets
of our
bought and sold.
private
budgets
equity group
change.
comes in, which we see are murdering our sport.
Great, yeah.
Like watching what these private equity groups are doing, and it's.
Can you explain that to people?
I don't know if I can explain it. I can talk about. I mean, I give you my opinion. My philosophy.
But what's happening there? And why is that a problem? Because we've never touched on that here.
Yeah. So I mean, look, DC, Fox, TLD, WPS. Let's talk about the off-road world, 4-wheel parts. Like that thing got sold 5 years ago to Polaris, and then I don't know, huge numbers, in the hundreds of millions, and then it gets sold to KMC, from what I heard, under the hundreds of millions, and then KMC sells it back to Greg Adler and brings it back, and Troy Lee just buys TLD back. Pennies on the dollar right here on all of these deals, not any one or sharing anything that's confidential information here. But the people in action sports and power sports, we're passionate. Like we're just not, we're more passionate and loving of our sport than we are numbers guys. Like our success came from our passion and belief in the sport. I took a complete flyer on myself, and look where I am today. Everyone thought I was a lunatic and crazy for doing what I did, leaving what I had in golf.
God, you just caught it too right on the boom.
Right? Like it was a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Just like this other company I told you about during the off segment that I'm starting. No one's ever thought of it. It's an opportunistic play in the world of sports.
Yeah.
And it's like, I look at, I keep talking about this podcast, like how I look at football and I look at golf and the success stories and what's worked over there to bring over here and use it in our own way within our sport. And I just feel like no one's thinking that way. We're just racing. It's like, this is a business.
Yeah.
This is $1 billion business vertical over here. And it's still in its infancy stages. Guys like you and I the sky's still the limit to grow and build this thing. So I forget where I was going with this.
No,
but
just like, I think to speak on the, like we're having this thing where these basically.
Oh,
these
private
like,
equity. Yeah.
Yeah, private equity companies are like, oh, this is a great company that turns over a bunch of money and it's a legacy brand. We're going to come in, we're going to gut it, we're going to make it more profitable, and then we're going to just
sell it off.
basically sell it off. But there's been a lot of, like the Fox is a great example of that. Like it's
WPS.
yeah, they're going through that right now,
Woo!
right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Shoemaker did an amazing job of building that company. You know, Fly. Like, no one wanted to be on Fly in the early 2000s, right? Like, and look what he turned that into. I mean, I remember when I brought Trey over there. Like, we took a bloodbath in the gossip boards, whatever you want to call them, for leaving Fox and going to Fly with Trey.
That would have been a big deal, though.
It was a good deal.
Yeah.
It was a very, very good deal. Trey's a very, very, solid, focused,
Great dude.
amazing human. Like Trey is, I used him as a role model for my kids. And my kids idolize him to this day. And my kids are really good friends with Trey's little brother,
Big brother.
Big Jackson.
Yeah, dude.
But,
he plays football, doesn't he?
Jackson he went and played D2 football. My kids played. They all stay in touch.
Huh.
And they all, we joke, like Savino at Honda, we joke about how the kids all used to run around the Honda pits back in the day. And now they're all married or finishing college, getting married. Kids are coming eventually. It's the next thing after marriage. But we joke about, looking the kids run around there. But I use Trey, and my sons have really, from his Christian beliefs, and as well as an athlete, and how to take that and tie that all together.
And a guy that walks the walk, doesn't talk the talk.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think that's like one of my, I spoke about that a bunch with him on the podcast. Like he's a great example of a guy that doesn't say a lot. You know his beliefs and you know where he stands, but he just walks the walk.
Yeah, and then the other side of Trey, though, he is so funny. When you get to know Trey and you're in his circle, he is hilarious. Like, I love what he's doing with his content now. Like, I wish social was like this during Trey's heyday, because I think he would have been a real machine social-wise, because he brings a different perspective with his content.
Yeah.
And it's very lighthearted and funny. And he's never trying to push, his beliefs or values on you. But I think we need more Treys in our world today with where we're at.
Yeah.
And but he's made a big impact on my boys and where they are today, and how he handled himself as a professional athlete along with his beliefs system. So
he's an incredible guy for sure. So back in the early days, like, did you see the boom coming of action sports, or like where do you think the connections was in like the X Games boom? And then how was it? How did you end up getting reconnected with Brian?
Yeah, that's Brian got reconnected with me. He had reached out to me. It was
because that as well is some crazy full circle shit.
Oh, I mean,
3 dudes from Nebraska.
Right?
And you and Brian end up working together. And not just, this is another thing that I think would probably be cool for you to speak on. Like, a lot of people say, don't mix friends and business. Bullshit. Like,
I'm a believer of that.
You think don't mix friends and business?
Me, Denny, and Brian, it's a different kind of, I think that's a different perspective business-wise, because I've had friends be business partners that are involved in your day-to-day business. If that makes
which I probably wouldn't
sense,
do.
Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that sort of business together.
For example, one of my sponsors is Fist Handwear, so the gloves, right? It's one of my best friends. We literally, it's every year 5-second conversation. Done. Sweet. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I'll do everything for free for him.
See, now I see that different. Yeah, and I see that differently when to your question. Like, if it was someone that was a partner with you in this podcast and you had to make business decisions every day of what you were going to cover content, what your bottom line is, how you're going to negotiate this deal and all that, and looking at your bank records every day and finance, and that, I don't need that.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
That's where when
But
you
I don't
say,
want that with
don't mix business with friends.
But I don't want
I
that
want to do it
with
with anyone
anyone,
anymore. After
yeah.
what I've been through in my
Yeah,
career,
yeah.
it's like,
I've never done it with anyone. I never will. I'd rather fall on my own sword, die on my own sword, than like have it be somebody else's.
I love controlling my own destiny.
Yeah.
It's like I live or die with the decisions I make, and I'm responsible for them.
I'll fail.
If I F
on
up,
my own.
it's on me.
Yeah, yeah. I completely agree with that.
So,
But in terms of you and Brian were, friends back in the day, and you knew each other, and to like come full circle the way that you guys did in a way.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm 8 years older than Brian, 7 or 8, and so again that separation. But Brian's older brother was closer in age to me, John.
Yeah.
And they lived by my best friends, and they hung out there, and so we all kind of knew each other, but didn't know each other.
Yeah. Okay.
And Brian's dad probably knew me the best, because he watched all of us kids. He was in charge of the school district as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was all that. But Brian reached out to me after I left Wasserman. I was at Omnicom, and I remember I had an opportunity through one of our ad agencies. It was for Spike TV, and it was Jill's or Joe's. It was this, I don't know, made for TV thing. And anyways, they needed a cameo appearance from a celebrity, and Brian was the guy. And I like, hey, Brian, I got this opportunity, one night deal, up here, do this. And he was down with it. And he's like, we went and did it. And it was a kind of our reconnect the first time for business. Because like Gravity Games, X Games, and back in those days, we had Nate Adams on our side. Brian was Brian. There was Travis. Travis was Travis. Brian was Brian. Then you had Nate Adams coming up trying to dethrone him. You know, and we were managing Nate, and so it was always like Brian was like, the bars, one of those, and I'm like, Brian and I were always good. We got each other's back. We're homies. We're from Bellevue, and then when I went to Wasserman and that thing happened, he'd called up and said, hey, I need some help on a new deal. I want to get a new energy drink deal. I don't know about this Sobe No Fear deal, if it's going to stick around, because they were kind of tanking at that time. And I was like, I don't know, Brian. I'm like, I'm at a publicly traded ad agency. You're past. And he's like, changed. And I'm like, I'm hearing, Nate's telling me the Bible studies, you found God. I think it's amazing. This is awesome what you're doing. Let's get together. And I was like, okay, let's work on the energy drink deal together. Let's work on that and see what we can figure out. And so that's what really opened my eyes to what Brian was building with Mulisha. It's one thing sitting here seeing what someone's doing, but now when you're on the team and you're seeing everything behind the scenes and the things that we had assets to, and like, you got Twitch, you got Potter, you got Scummy, you got Taka, you got all these guys on a crew. We got the WWE of action sports is what we got here. And I'm like, Brian, we got something. You got really something special here. Like, this can really be freaking monetized. Like, we could really build something here. I'm like, let's go for it. So I got on the phone and actually called our chairman at GMR, Gary Reynolds. I called him. I said, Gary, you got to come meet this guy. Like, I think we got something special here as an athlete. And at this time, Omnicom had never represented talent. They were agnostic to it. They did not believe in the representation of talent. They were corporate brand side. I'll never forget Gary and our CFO fly out on his jet, French Valley, come over and see Brian and Marisa and I, and sit there. Gary comes from the music industry. He's an entertainer. He created the Miller Blind Date program with music and Miller. Yeah. Miller's still their client to this day because of it. He built that whole thing. That's how visionary this guy was. And he's the guy who brought me over to build this. So he had this vision. And then I bring Brian to the table as the first guy in action sports. And I'm like, you got to, and they come out, and it was Brian's old compound, nothing like the new one. And we put on a jump show, and they're just like, this is your guy. We're on board. Let's bring Brian on to be the first for us. And the rest is history. And that's what got us going. Was that all? It was timing. Yeah. opportunity.
Yeah.
And then, we
Network.
joke about when we put that deal together with Rockstar. I wish we had the napkin. I was talking to Steve Mateus recently over at Rockstar, and he's like, Walker, God, if we had that napkin that we outlined this deal on, it would have made it. I go, dude, that's one for the archives. Because literally, we sat at Huntington Beach Pier. I think it was December 23rd, December 22nd. It was right before Christmas. We all got together, me, him, and Brian, and frickin' nailed it right then and there of what Rockstar and Mulisha would become. That's one for the history books and action sports.
And so what
That
do you
deal.
think that did for the sport in general? Like what do you think? Because I don't think people would understand like the magnitude of someone like Brian and the Metal Mulisha working with that company and having not Rockstar, but like the representation behind it, like the deals that company's like, that's
How
like,
about Ford Motor Company?
Yeah,
When we
like-
brought the Metal Mulisha was part of Ford's activation at X Games for 3 years in a row. Whoever thought you I remember working with the Mulisha marketing team, and they're like, dude, we're with Ford Motor Company in front of the Staples Center with everybody signing autographs, and we did a Mulisha wrapped Ford Fiesta giveaway.
Yeah,
And then it became the Octane Academy that we created with them with Brian.
yeah.
And it's like, who ever would have thought that? And I got to tell you, the things that we had to go through in convincing Ford Corporate and Ford Legal because of those Mulisha marks and what people thought,
Yeah, the stereotypes
the connotation
around it.
of those marks. And back then we were getting, like, I remember we were joking about this recently, like the California school district were kicking kids out or taking their shirts off them because you couldn't come to school wearing a Metal Mulisha t-shirt. And I'm like, this is the greatest marketing ever.
Yeah.
Every kid in the world's going to want this shirt now if the schools don't want them wearing it. Right?
Yeah. It's so true, eh? It was such a huge movement.
Oh, God, that was the heyday. We had so much fun. There were so many cool deals. The licensing things that we were doing.
Yeah.
Who would think that skull would become so cool and iconic globally? That skull. I mean, talk about hitting pay dirt. Brian and Larry nailed it.
And so, like, it's funny because there's this whole generation now, or this whole like modern generation of people that think of him as like the mini dad, like Hayden's dad, and it's like the level of operator that he has to be to build those companies and to make those deals and to like be the guy that could actually carry that is like, dude, that's not a mini dad. Like that's a fucking business genius right there.
You want to know how I describe Brian Deegan on Madison Avenue? Gene Simmons. He is Gene Simmons. He is a marketing machine, a visionary. I've been with Brian a long time, right? A lot of meetings, a lot of conversations, and he thinks at things so differently, both as a marketer and as a competitor. Really, really, I commend him for how deep he dives. Like when he made the decision to go from, when the freestyle world was winding down for him, and he didn't want to not be relevant, and he's like, I want to. What's next? And fortunately, X Games had rally car, it was just coming.
Yep.
And he's like, I want to get in this rally car thing. I'm like, wow, Brian, you're a freestyle guy. Like, race a rally car against these Euros? Like, we're from Nebraska. Like,
Yeah.
We drove on some dirt roads and stuff, but
This is a whole different deal.
this shit's gnarly. And we started working Rockstar, and Rockstar supported him wholeheartedly. They believed in Brian. They got behind him, and Brian didn't just get in the car and drive. He went out and tested. He spent his own money. He bought books on the mental side of racing. Like this guy's got notebooks and notebooks upon notebooks of notes from racing and the mental side of racing. And he's outworked everybody, in my opinion, because of this. He is really, really smart and looks at things differently. Whether it's 4-wheel or 2-wheel or even marketing and licensing, he's got an incredible eye, from a creative standpoint with all the merch. Like, look at all that Mulisha merch, and now it's Hayden's merch. Like, Brian's got an incredible eye and a good feel for what's next. And I've worked with a lot of great marketers that don't have that. A lot of great racers, most racers don't have the marketing side. It's like, God dang. like, how hard is it to be a great racer and be marketable? But
Yeah.
obviously it's difficult because we don't have many.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's
No,
like,
we don't.
It's like,
And even the ones we think are going to be great at it aren't.
no. But Brian's understood that, you know, you hear his stories from, you know, when he met Mark Hall at the X Games in '97 and, you know, the Hanson's deal started and how he looked at ESPN and the media value and what the media could do and good versus bad, dark versus, you know, I've always looked at it as, you know, Travis Pastrana was Luke Skywalker and Brian Deegan was Darth Vader in the Metal Militia.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you
Great
got,
analogy.
You got iconic characters, and that's why when I'm selling ad agencies or corporate brands and I'm trying to explain Brian and the family to him in the Metal Militia, I'm like, this is Gene Simmons of the KISS Army.
Yeah.
He's the general. Brian Deegan is your Gene Simmons. He's the face, he's the voice, he's the badass, he's the gnarly dude. And he's the marketing guy behind the scenes, just like Gene is. Gene's an incredible businessman. Look at all the licensing that Gene's done.
Yeah.
He's the brains behind that band. Brian's the brains behind Mulisha. And it was interesting, you know, and it was his idea to do Deegan 38, you know, to create something different from Metal Militia that was more mainstream, because that edge doesn't fit with a lot of corporate brands, and we had a lot of challenges. Like
A lot of yeses, but a lot of no's.
we lost a deal that would have changed Supercross forever. I won't mention the brand, but a lot of people who are listening to this will know what I'm talking about that are close to me. But it was with the Factory Connection team, and it would have, this corporate sponsor would have changed everything. And we went in to sign the deal. Literally went in to sign this 3-year deal, and they looked at the catalog, and the guy looked at the logos, and he had a negative connotation of what he associated it with. Threw the catalog at me and said, "I don't care what you say this stands for. I don't believe it, and we're not sponsoring you." And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Like you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
And so those things have happened, and you're like, let's cleaner, more mainstream. That's where Deegan 38 started to come from.
Yeah.
But again, it's Brian's vision and a feel for the marketplace.
Yeah. So interested to hear your perspective on how you think Hayden's going to fit in to the Supercross thing, because I personally think that he's probably, like, if there's going to be a one that really changes shit, I think it's him.
We have the potential. The potential is there. And I say potential because it's such a dangerous sport.
Yeah, nothing is guaranteed.
Right?
Yeah.
It's, the pieces are there. All the pieces are there. I'm very excited for what he's done on the track. I'm very excited because I know what we can do off track. You know, I know what we're capable of doing as an organization. And when I mean an organization, I mean Brian and Connections and all of us and our team around us. I really feel like we can do some things in this sport that's never been done, and we can change it for the better from a marketing and publicity standpoint. But it's a dangerous sport, and a lot of things can happen. I think Hayden's got the right personality for it. It's interesting to see the banter and the haters out there, one form or the other. I like it. We need that sort of personality in this sport, and to be unafraid to say what you're thinking.
Yeah.
To take a page from WWE and MMA or UFC.
Yeah.
You know, take a page from there. Like, the fans are eating it up. Bad publicity is good publicity, right?
If it bleeds, it leads.
Like, let's start getting on SportsCenter. Like, I'm going to take you down a little different tangent here on that, but about Haiden. But I'm like, why are we not on SportsCenter every freaking Saturday night?
Yeah, why aren't we on SportsCenter?
You're a media guy. I'm like, I'm not trying to throw this at you, but I'm like, hey, you're a media guy. I'm like, I've worked with me. I'm like, why will ESPN and FS1 not broadcast this, and we got to watch pickleball highlights?
Yeah.
Why do we got to watch the dog racing highlights of the frickin' Corgi championships? And you telling me we can't watch the Supercross championship?
But what
highlights?
What actually is the problem? Like, where is the breakdown?
I'm going to tell you what I heard.
Okay.
And it isn't recently, but in years past, I've asked this question, like the whys, and I have been told that it's because we are not on their broadcast channel.
That's probably what I figured.
And I call bullshit. Because why are the frickin' dog races, and why is badminton championships and some of these other sports that aren't even sports, in my opinion, getting airtime on ESPN and FS1. Like, why is Barstool Sports not talking about this? We're their freaking demographic.
Yeah.
You know, Portnoy should come to a Supercross
Dude,
race.
I get told.
Hey, if you're listening, Portnoy, you need to come to a Supercross race. Like,
I literally
and
got
start
asked,
gambling here.
Yeah, I got asked yesterday. I'm like, someone said to me, "Why hasn't Barstool Sports bought you yet? You're like literally the Barstool. You're like
Yeah.
the Barstool of what we do." Yeah,
Dude, could you imagine having your own Barstool like room, like the war room for Saturday Supercross, and we're all sitting in there, we're all gambling, we got our prop bets. That's pretty badass.
it's coming.
I want in on that.
All right.
As a gambler, I want in on that one with you, Jace.
All right. Well, we can talk after.
No, I want to like be part of the like.
I got ideas. I got some ideas for next.
And that's something our sports really miss, and I hope it comes sooner than later. The gambling, the fantasy's cool.
Yeah.
The gambling, the prop bets, it's here in our country. It ain't going away. Get on the bandwagon. It's more sponsorship revenue for these teams. It's more sponsorship revenue for the sport. It's going to bring in, I think fantasy football saved the NFL.
Dude, I mean, so
right?
I have I agree with your take, right? Like, I think that, so Australia is one of the gnarliest countries in the world for sports betting.
Really?
Oh, bro.
Like, you guys are like big gamblers over there?
Can you like just do a bit of Googling, Rones, about like this Australian sports gambling statistics? Like, I don't know what you
are they gambling on moto and supercross over there yet? Or
no. But dude, the NRL, which is like our NFL, is every fucking sports thing.
Is that
in
National
Australia.
Rugby? Is that National Rugby League?
Yeah, National Rugby League. So go down.
5.8
Total gambling expenditure in Australia increased from 21.2 billion in 2019 to 2020 to 24 billion in 2021. 13% increase. Per adult gambling expenditure increased from 1,000 to 1,200. Yeah. Anyway, it's fucking out of control, dude. And like every time that you watch a game, like there's full ads in the broadcast for like the different betting partnerships. Like at halftime, they got a guy from fucking Ladbrokes that comes on. He's like, "All right, so the over-unders have changed for if you want to get your halftime." It's like a big thing. It's probably like too much for me. Like, I actually think Australia's taken it a little bit too far. But I remember when I first lived in America, I didn't know anything about the NFL. I didn't really like it. I'm a rugby guy. I played rugby my entire life. I was like, why the fuck do they wear helmets? You know what I mean? Like the pads, like we don't do none of that shit. So I was like that guy. And then I got in a fucking fantasy team and I got in a fantasy league and I had players that I was betting on each week, and it was small amounts of money, but it actually sucked me into the game of NFL. I am now an NFL fan. So there is a connection there between it's skin in the game.
Yes.
It's literally all it is. It's skin in the game. You have skin in the game. And I think especially in a sport now where like you can pretty much know who's going to win the 450 class every single weekend. It's like, how the fuck do you keep that interesting? Well, if you've got
prop
a
bets.
bet for 8.
Prop bets. Yeah. Parlays, prop bets, fastest lap time. How about the live? I love the live betting. Like sometimes I miss the start of a game and I'm sitting on the game and I got preoccupied. I'm like, God dang it, I missed the start of that freaking game. Oh, I can go get the live bet. Yeah, the odds maybe changed a little bit, this or that. Sometimes it plays to my favor. I'm like, oh shit, they're 2 touchdowns down.
They're like, yeah, we got this.
Yeah. You got better odds. So I was like, imagine doing that with Supercross and motocross. Like, who made the most passes in the race?
Yeah.
The hard charger award, for example, the fastest lap time. Yeah. Oh, Sexton got a 10th place start, but now he's 50-1. I'm like, I'm going to take him. Yeah. Like, it's a mud race. I'm going to take Sexton on a 50-1 coming from 10th to win it. Like, it gets exciting. And now you got the gamblers that are gambling on a sport just to gamble, that now we're going to suck them in to become new fans of our sport. Well, and now they're hooked, and now they buy dirt bikes, and now they buy gear.
Yeah. And the thing is like, so everything. How do you need to know who to bet on?
Well, that's because you have offline sites that are going to give you the locks of the week that are brought to you by Jason Bob.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
The
It's
lock of the week.
You have to get invested in the sport, and you have to get invested in the riders, and if you want to bet on the sport, you need to know who's going to win, right? You have to know who the guy is. So there definitely is there's a thing there, and I think
and the fantasy helps it too. Like
sure.
what they've been doing with fantasy, I love the
dude. Draft your own Supercross team. You get three lights riders, 3 450 riders for the whole year. 3
East, 3 West.
Yep.
Three 450,
yep.
and then you got an SMX.
Yep.
Sort of thing. Has It has been. I think there were some hangups, over here in the States.
Yeah, with like the legalities and shit.
Yeah, and I think they've been working their ways through that.
Yeah.
And it's coming. It's just not coming as fast as guys like you and I'd like it. Does that mean it's going to be 25 or 26?
Yeah.
I hope it's 25.
Yeah.
I think it's going to help the entire sport.
Yeah.
I think teams will get deals left and right. Maybe left and right's too aggressive, but the 450 teams can, because you got to be 18 and up. Yeah. And that's the one thing with our sport and the lights riders.
There's not many 16-year-olds though.
No,
they'd have to be 18, most of them. Yeah.
You got to have that 18 and up thing. But that's when we talk to these brands, that's one thing that comes up. And the other thing is the overall average age of the fan base.
Yeah.
And that's something they're looking at, that it's not too young, and they don't want to be promoting gambling to too young of a demographic.
Right. Australia, that's a free for it is crazy, dude.
I'm just telling you their opinion. My opinion is I've been on gambling my whole life. I grew up in Nebraska. Like, I've had bookie sheets next to me since I was 5 years old. Like, grew up at the horse track with the ponies. That's second nature, but a lot of other people didn't grow up that way.
Yeah.
But I think gambling's a fabric of our culture. And it's a good thing for our sport to bring new fans in, expose new people. But it is chicken and egg, to your point, because you're like, well, how do you hook them if they don't know the sport?
Yeah.
Well, they're a gambler, first of all. That's their hook. They got to gamble. There's so many gamblers got to gamble on everything. I bet you I can drink this water faster than you.
Yeah. Fuck, I don't have that gene.
I don't. Thank God I don't have it. But man, being around gamblers, just like alcoholism or drug addiction, is the gambling addiction.
And that's the argument, right? Is like, oh, we don't want to create addictions. It's like, we sell beer in the stadium.
Yeah.
How many alcoholics are off the wagon buying a beer? You know what I mean? How many people shouldn't be drinking beer at the stadium that drink
What's
beer?
What's going to happen in another 5-10 years in this country with the other substances that are being legalized? It's going to be another category at some point in time, probably.
Yeah.
In the States, the way it's continually moving in this country.
Yeah.
But I'm a sales guy, right? I'm looking for sponsorship revenue. So you're looking at the pillars of where the money
is right now.
Where is the money?
Yeah.
We got sugar water. You got gambling. What's the other hot one right now out there? I mean, cannabis. OnlyFans is everywhere. It's all these vices in life. It's vices in life. Vices in life is where the money pockets seem to be in the sponsorship world.
For better or worse.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's some of the deals that are like your favorite deals you've ever done?
I've been proud of all of them. The ones that come to mind, that like in the action sports world that stick out to me, is the Geico deal. That one and the Red Bull Honda deal. Bringing Geico to Factory Connection back in the day, that was cool. Bringing that one like shook the industry. Like, what the weird, like, because we launched it at Vegas mid-year.
Was it the black bikes? It was the first. Yeah.
And we did that, and it was a trial run. Let's debut it at Vegas. We'll run the Outdoor Nationals as a test for the year. And then, oh, by the way, we got X Games, guys. And we're going to run a black bike with Josh Grant at Summer X Supercross. And if I'm not mistaken, Josh was Mulisha at the same time, too. And he wins the gold.
That's right.
Of Supercross.
He was a crazy marketable guy, too.
JG's awesome, the Grizz.
Imagine if the whole social media thing was around.
With him and Alessi in the day, and Villapoto, those three going at it. His kids.
He's cooler than fuck, that guy.
I love Josh.
Really good
Yeah,
dude. I got to hang out with him and Ashley at a race. It was one of the Verb races last year. I never really hung out with them that much. Fucking legends.
Salt of the earth people.
Good kids too.
Amazing. I was there when me and Denny were with Josh when he met Ashley. We go way, way back.
That's awesome.
With him. But Josh, so Josh wins the gold. And the contact from Geico we had at X Games with us in LA. And Motley Crue was playing with Buck Cherry at Glen Helen Pavilion.
At the San Bernardino. Yeah.
So I'm like, and this guy's like, yeah, I'm a Crew fan. I'm like, Danny, we're freaking going to Crew. We're gonna go. We're gonna take this guy to Crew. We're gonna load that limo up with champagne and booze. We're gonna schmooze the hell out of this guy. Took him to Motley Crue in the limo, did the whole 9 yards, brought him back. Josh won the gold, celebrated that, and he's like, I'm ready to do a 3-year deal. Took the bike. I told Factory Connects, I said, let's take this bike and let's give it to Geico and put it at HQ in DC.
Just let everyone walk past it every day.
Every day that CEO and CMO walk in, they see that bike. I called up X Games and I said, guys, I got an idea. Can I buy a replica gold medal? Like, I want to put it with the bike. I want to put it on display with the jersey from Josh. I want to sign it, put it right in headquarters at Geico. So everybody that walks in that building sees that bike, the gold medal, and the story's there. No one has to say anything. It's just, and we did that. And that was a long-standing partnership over at FCR that allowed them to build what they built today, or not longer, but in the heyday, what they had.
Yeah.
So that was a really, really cool deal, and how we pulled it off. And it was a cold call. Cold call. I chased this guy. I remember going to MotoGP up at Laguna Seca because they had a booth there. And I went there specifically to track him down, to find him. And he was there, but I couldn't get to him. But I got his name. I got his contact info. So I had the bat line number. I kept chasing him. And that's how that happened. And that's a big outside of the industry deal for our sport.
Maybe the biggest.
Yeah. And the other, like, I think of the Red Bull Honda deal just because that was so cool. And bringing two iconic
just
brands.
the top.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember, so when I went to Omnicom, and when I started at Omnicom, and I'm like, I got to build my client list up. I don't want to infringe upon anything I'd done over at Wassman from a conflict of interest standpoint.
Sorry, mate.
And I was like, with the brands that we now have access to here, or I have access to here now, and American Honda being the pinnacle of American Honda, and, this is 2007. Ray Blank was still there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, F it, I'm calling Ray Blank. I have the rights to call Ray Blank now. I got a real business proposition for Ray. I called Ray and I said, an idea. I'd like to represent you. I think I can bring American Honda their first title sponsor.
So they'd never had a title sponsor to this point?
No, not that I can recall. I mean, maybe there was something in the 70s or early 80s,
but not in the modern era.
Yeah, not in the modern era. So someone may say, you're full of shit, Bob, you're lying. If I'm misrepresenting, I apologize in advance, but I don't recall American Honda having a global partner for their Supercross, motocross racing teams. So Ray's like, yeah, I'd like to take a flyer on this, but we're very picky about who we're going to let align with our colors. They got to have red in their logo. They got to be global. It goes on, here's your pecking order. And I was like, well, shit, I think I got about 10 brands in the world that I could actually call. Based upon the criteria and the
Coca-Cola.
fit.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Mobile One,
Yep.
Coca-Cola, Red Bull. You could pretty much, maybe an Intel, like they're blue, but
yeah,
large global iconic brands that have some red. Blue works with red, the red, white, blue thing. So that works. And I really thought I could get Mobile One. I really, really thought I could get Mobile One over there. But I also was like, I need to go after Red Bull. And everyone's like, dude, Red Bull will never leave KTM. Will never leave. And I again, another one of those places, I remember where I was sitting when I made the call. in my car at a car wash. I make the call. I lob the call over to Paul Crandall. I don't know if you know Paul from back in the day. He went on to GoPro, and
yeah.
he was a CMO at GoPro, but he was at Red Bull.
Yeah.
He was like one of the first 10 employees at Red Bull, like my understanding. And lo and behold, he worked at GMR where I was at before. So it was like all this network again, right?
Yeah.
Coming together. But I said, hey, Paul, just to throw this out to you, man. There's a unique opportunity. I know you guys are global with KTM, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Honda. He's like, what? Honda, HRC. And he's like, dude, I'm listening. He's like, you could have told me just about anything. And I said, no, but Honda, I'm listening. And so it took us a while to put that deal together, but man, was that cool. The activation with the bus that they brought and the pits and the launch party that we did, I'm like, that partnership should still be in place. It really should be, but people change positions, philosophies change, marketing plans change, one thing leads to another, blah, blah, blah. And it deteriorated. And, obviously KTM and Red Bull are what they are today, but that was a deal. I think that was probably the largest deal in the history of the sport.
Really?
I think so.
Huh.
I think so based upon what I know.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really, really cool to do that. But I was bummed to see it go away too, because we had Millsaps, we had Trey, Tedesco.
Yeah. Shorty
was on that program too.
Yeah. And
the plan was it was supposed to evolve and go into the entire off-road program, the road racing program. It was supposed to be Honda Red Bull across the board in the United States. But then it went the other direction. But those are I mean, like I said, those are two that really, really stick out to me. But I brought Toyota to Feld, which was an interesting story. Toyota was supposed to go to Chad on his race team. In the 11th hour, Nissan pulled out of Feld. Feld called me and said the truck, and I'm like, Toyota's launching the Tundra. And
I remember when that.
And I literally thought it was going to be the team, the sport, across the board, and then Toyota pulled the rug out from underneath us on the team side, and I was like, God dang it, I'm like, you son of a guns, like.
That's like one.
Like I had this for my, and now like trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that happens, and you're like, I can't control the brand. But like in retrospect, I was like, that one backfired.
Yeah. Well, that's like one thing. I mean, I can think of a few examples where there's a little bit of there's some muddy water between like Feld getting their own sponsors and then the teams and then the riders. Like you said, everyone's competing for the same.
Yeah, and it's not like that in NASCAR. That's one thing. When you asked me earlier, like some of the differences, and I forgot to bring that up, and I'm glad you're touching on this, because NASCAR's got a sales team to sell their, the large rights of NASCAR overarching, and then they got a sales team that's selling the tracks. And some of the tracks are owned by NASCAR, and then some are owned by SMI, a different ownership group. But between all the tracks, those two entities own them all. But then you got all the race teams and the drivers. And NASCAR actually has a group of salespeople that work with like myself that's representing the drivers or the teams, and they're bringing us deals.
Yeah.
Like they're like, hey, we're pitching XYZ company. They're looking to be a entitlement, and then they're going to buy this track, and they're going to need a driver to use in activations and promotions, and we're recommending these 3 drivers. Can you send me over your deck and your analytics? We're going to include, are you okay? Are you conflicted? No, guys, here's everything. Here you go. You make the pitch. If the brand wants to take the next step, please introduce it to me, and I'll take it from there.
Mm.
We're
working together.
Yeah, we're working together.
Yeah.
And there really isn't anything like that in our sport. Like,
no, and it in fact, it happens in the opposite way. Like, do you remember when GoPro sponsored the series and then 360 Fly sponsored Chad? And then 360 Fly was banned from being at the races because it was a conflict.
Yes.
That was one thing that I was like, that's really fucked up. That's quite bad business. That's very bad business.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Monster being title sponsor and nobody can have an energy drink on their bike.
Yeah.
It's I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What's the, God, what's the?
Well, it's a monopoly at that point.
Yeah, it's a
right?
monopoly. There's another word for it. It'll come to me, but it's a monopoly, but it's like a labor law thing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Antitrust.
Antitrust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's antitrust.
I don't really remember an example of that happening, like in recent times. Like maybe that was a thing that kind of like everyone maybe took a step back and looked at that. But yeah, there is a thing.
Oh no, there is one this year.
Really?
I got ripped right out from underneath me.
Oh no shit.
I
What
won't
happened?
mention the name,
yeah,
but
fair.
out of respect. But
So it still happens.
oh yeah,
Okay.
it was a big one, really big one we had, and it got ripped out from underneath me at NASCAR and Supercross, both series, and it was done because of TV, NBC. Like, we will not cover that logo.
Yeah. Okay.
We will not broadcast that logo.
Ah.
And there's another category that it's happening on as well in our sport with another brand. So, yeah, it's happening. And I don't think Feld's doing anything wrong or MX Sports is doing anything. Like they want to see us get these deals first of all. So, again, I'm not bashing on them. This one's driven by the network TV channels, and it makes.
So there's just other forces at play too.
Yes. There are other forces at play.
Yeah.
On these things, and we need media. But I'm like, guys, these are some of the hot categories, and they're being spent in other sports. Why are we not doing it? And it's like the NBC thing.
Yeah. And there's that you got to play ball. I mean, that's like a $8 million. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So I'm not bitching. Just you
But
and
it
I
happens.
talk. It's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll end off with some advice for people then. You've been in the game a long time. One of the things I always get asked is like, how do I get in the industry? How do I do this? How do I do like wanting to work in the sport? Someone that wants to be like you, work with you. What are you looking for? What do people need to do? Like what's your advice to somebody starting day one to try and be in this industry?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Over the years, I've been doing it a long time. I've had the luxury to speak to a lot of college groups, kids looking to get into sports marketing. And I've always enjoyed that because I wouldn't be where I am today had someone not taken a flyer on Bob Walker. And I feel like it's my job to take kids and put them underneath my wing, pay it forward, right? And so I really enjoy talking to kids, and I tell them, like, look, don't get into motocross or don't get into golf because you want to ride a dirt bike a bunch and go to the motocross track.
Tell me about it. I haven't ridden in months.
You'll ride less.
Yeah.
And if you're in, it's the same thing. And I took it from the golf industry because you will play less golf if you're in the golf industry than if you're out of it. So I play way more golf now that I'm out of it, and I use it as a business tool and meet people. You know, you belong to a private country club, there's a high net worth, and they all typically own businesses and companies or they're big marketing people. So that's my network.
And everyone's got problems and they need solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but back to the kids. Don't get into the sport if you think you want to just ride a dirt bike and go to the motocross track, because that's the wrong reason. Get into the sport because you're passionate, and don't do it because of the money. Like, if you're young and you know you want to be, whether it's motocross or sport, just take sports marketing in general and not just moto for right now, right? And you want to get in, don't do it for the money. Because when you're coming out of college or you're coming out of school, and the college path is harder to make sense these days with how things are going with our educational system in this country, right? So, you know, look at your MMIs, look at UTI. Like one of the ideas I have, I want to go to MMI and say, guys, let me teach a motorsports marketing program and representation program on the world of motorsports, because you guys have students who are going to want to come in and do the marketing side, not just the mechanical side of things. I think there's something being left on the table here with guys like you, like guys like myself, or even yourself coming and teaching a journalism class, you know, in motorsports specific, because motorsports is a completely different category than football, baseball, basketball.
You just have to have so much specific knowledge about
we're in
the
that,
industry.
that vertical, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to get in, do it early, because everybody wants to do this because it's so cool. The level of competition is so high, and kids are willing to work for free. I was willing to work for free. I was told if I wanted to get in, you got to donate your time. And yeah, times have changed and you are getting paid for internships and things now, but still it's uber competitive to go to work for an agency like me or go work for a race team, especially on the marketing side or you know, the content side. It's tough. So it's like, donate your services, volunteer, get yourself involved at an early age and start building your network.
Yeah.
Letting people know you're a good person, you're passionate, you work hard, you show up on time, you go above and beyond. They're like, this is a good kid. I want to help him. I want to help him move his career along. I can see the passion. I can see the energy. So many kids today come along and think we owe it to them. Like, it just blows me away. It's like, we don't owe you guys anything. Like, we've worked hard to get to where we're at. And I just expect the next group to want to work hard and be as passionate as I was and love the sport the way I've loved it. So, a long-winded answer, but get involved early. Donate your time. Be a volunteer. Start building your network, and then that will start growing. And then as you do these things and you get more involved, it's going to open your eyes to, maybe I don't like doing that. Like remember, like early on, I talked about how I wanted to be a sports broadcast journalism major and go down that road and be a broadcaster. And then I'm watching this guy play golf and doing $1 million deals and going beautiful dinners. I'm like, I want that life. That's pretty rad. So it opened my eyes and created a new goal and a new vision for me to strive for. So by getting involved early, donating your time, opened your eyes to, maybe that's not the career path I want to go. Maybe I want to be a mechanic instead, or maybe I want to be a videographer. Maybe I feel better writing content. I don't like to be the front man. I want to be behind the scenes. You know, we're all built differently. We all have different DNA and what you know, how we function, whatever. But you'd be surprised what you learn when you get involved and your eyes get opened. It's not always what you think it is. And you're like, yeah, I'm all in, or maybe I need to tweak or change this. So I hope that helps for the younger kids, you know, looking holistically at sports marketing and not just Supercross, motocross. If you want to look at Supercross, motocross, my 2 cents is go talk to these teams. Everybody can use help. Be a parts cleaner at the local track, like not the local track, but like, hey, Supercross comes through Anaheim and you're living in Riverside County, get a hold of teams to see if you can be a parts washer. Phoenix, any of the stops, like walk up to the teams and ask, like, hey, how can I be involved? Can I help you out every time you come through the marketplace? But you're just getting involved and you're networking.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important is your network, because that's the one thing that got me to where I am today is my network, asking, working hard, just being a good person.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound difficult, right? But
no,
it is in this day and age.
No, no, and it's really, it's hard, but it's not hard.
Right.
You know, it's like very easy to say, but it's just hard to walk that walk, you know. And also I think like it is great advice to say that you don't know what you'll end up doing. Like I was a videographer. That's what I did. 10 years. Followed the circuit, made all the videos, shot with all the riders. That was my network.
But you're a hell of a caddy.
What was a caddy? Yeah. But it's like, I never knew I'd do this. Never in a million years. Never thought I'd do this. This was a thing that just happened, you know?
Yep.
So it's like you get in the game, play it to the best of your ability, and you just don't know where it's going to take you by just grafting every day and, you know, kind of staying on the path. So,
yeah, I had no idea I'd end up where I am today. Like what we're doing and like when I started down this road, no clue I'd end up where I am today in the Olympics and
it probably turned
events.
out better than you ever could have dreamed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sure, there's heartaches. There's a roller coaster in there of things that happen, but I don't think I'd change anything. Like, it's pretty damn cool what I've had a chance to be a part of, and actually in a sport and an industry that's kind of there at the ground floor.
Yeah.
With, you know, I was a participant of it in its earliest stages before anyone knew what the hell it was, but we had more TV time in the 70s than we do in 2024 of motocross, it seems like, right? You know, the passion for the sport with, you know, the USGP and all that, even though it was only one time a year.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool to be sitting here with you, being able to share these stories, and hopefully there's some nuggets there that can help some kids with their career path and where they want to go and what they want to do.
Yeah. It's been awesome.
So thanks for having me.
No,
it's been really cool. This has been fun.
Golf next.
Definite golf. We're going to do the first golf podcast.
I would love to
You're
do
gonna
that.
you're gonna film it. We're gonna be out golfing, talking shit.
Love it. Well, mate, thanks very much, Bob Walker. You're the man.
Thank you, Jace.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.